Հարգելի գործընկերներ, ուրախ եմ ձեզ բոլորիդ ողջունելու։ Ես Գևորգ Աղջանն եմ, ICPD կազմակերպության համահիմնադիրը եւ այս կոնֆերանսի նախագահն։ Մենք ունենք 405 մասնակից։ Ես սկսեցի խոսել հայերեն, որ բոլորին Հայաստանում մեր մասնակիցներին դիմավորեմ հայերենով եւ մենք կոնֆերանսը, քանի որ միջազգային է, կշարունակենք անգլերեն լեզվով։ Մեր բոլոր դասախոսները Միացյալ Նահանգներից են եւ նաեւ մենք ունենք Ռուսաստանից ներկայացուցիչ, դրա համար մեր աշխատանքային լեզուն լինելու է անգլերենը եւ համոզված եմ, որ մեր թարգմանիչները ոնց որ միշտ շատ լավ կթարգմանեն։ Ես սլայդս դրված է, կարծում եմ մենք կարող ենք սկսել մեր կոնֆերանսը։ Ես վիդեոս կանջատեմ, որ չխանգարի սլայդերին։ Distinguished colleagues, guests, and healthcare professionals from Armenia and around the world. It is my distinct honor to welcome you to the second Aram Chobanyani Conference on Postgraduate Medical Education and Continuing Professional Development. This virtual gathering, organized by the International Center for Professional Development, ICPD, very well known in Armenia and abroad, and supported by the Fund for Armenia Relief, FAR, exemplifies our collective commitment to advancing medical education and honoring the profound legacy of Dr. Aram Chobanyani. Dr. Chobanyani, an eminent Armenian-American physician and academic leader, dedicated his life to the healthcare advancement. Today, we will have a pleasure to listen a lecture about his legacy from a dean of medical school, Boston Medical School, Professor Atman. His impact extended far behind the United States. His vision continues to inspire our efforts to elevate healthcare standards globally. Next slide, please. Building on the success of our inaugural conference, which attracted over 700 participants last time from Armenia and Artsakh and the international community, we reaffirm our dedication to fostering a collaborative environment where knowledge, experience, and innovation converge. The establishment of this annual conference underscores our commitment to continuous professional development and cultivation of global medical community. Today, we will explore innovative teaching strategies in medical education through interactive panel discussions and virtual networking sessions. Our goal is to dive into the cutting-edge methods and their practical applications, ultimately enhancing the quality of medical education and patient care. In the spirit of Dr. Chobanyani's enduring legacy, I encourage you to fully engage in this opportunity to learn, share, and collaborate. Next slide, please. Our third speaker today will be Dr. Karen Atman, my mentor, my former mentor when I was a Fulbright scholar at the Boston University Medical School. And her lecture will be devoted to the legacy of Dr. Aram Chobanyani, President Emeritus, Boston University medical educator, researcher, mentor, and friend. Dr. Karen Atman, serving as a provost and dean of the Boston University Medical School since 2005. Previously, she was deputy director of translational and clinical science at the National Cancer Institute, NIH, and director of the Columbia University Cancer Center. An international recognized oncologist, her work has advanced therapies for sarcomas, mesotheliomas, and breast cancer, as well as a supportive cancer care. Dr. Atman has authored over 300 publications, edited 5 textbooks, and held leadership roles in ASCO and other American organizations. She is a member of the National Academy of Medicine and has served as a key boards, including USMLE, FSMG, New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA, and the NIH Fogarty International Center. We'll have a pleasure to hear Dr. Atman talk about Dr. Aram Chobanyani and his reflection on mentorship and work with him. Next slide, please. I specifically put this slide because many of you might know about this event in 2022, following 100 million donations by philanthropist and clarinetist Edward Avitisyan. The school, Boston University Medical School, named formally to the Boston University Aram Chobanyani and Edward Avitisyan School of Medicine, honoring Avitisyan and his very good friend, former dean of the medical school, Dr. Aram Chobanyani. I have the pleasure to be on that event, sitting in the first row, and you can see how, like in 1 minute, Boston University School of Medicine became Boston University Aram Chobanyani Edward Avitisyan School of Medicine. I'm very proud as Armenian, and I'm sure that all of people in Armenia in the medical field very, very proud of this event. And you can see Dr. Atman's speech during that event that time. Our next speaker, next slide, please. And the keynote speaker will be Dr. Ara Tekian, my very good friend and leading scholar in professional education with groundbreaking research that advanced health professionals training worldwide. His work has shaped international standards for education, patient safety, and public health. Dr. Tekian published over 190 peer-reviewed journal articles and presented over 150 peer-reviewed presentations. He teaches widely, conducting over 325 invited workshops and courses and 2075 invited presentations in over 45 countries. As I know, Dr. Tekian now outside, also traveling. I saw his post in the Facebook from last week, so he's traveling a lot. And I want to also mention that Dr. Ara Tekian is a faculty member for American University of Armenia, where he is teaching a course in a medical education. I think this is the only institution in Armenia having this course available for their students, for MPH student. Next slide, please. Coming to the end of my introduction speech, I cannot not mention my mentors in the medical education, Dr. Guar Kellan, former dean in the medical school, Dr. Aram Chobanyani, and we will hear about him, Dr. Edgar Hovsepian, a board member of the FAR, neurosurgeon from Columbia University, our very dear friend, Dr. Atman. I have a pleasure working with her at the Boston University School of Medicine, and of course, Dr. Rafi Hovsepian. All of them make a big input in my career in the medical education. And coming next slide to the end of this introduction, I just want to say that I put this slide, I find out this picture, and as we conclude opening and introduction session, I would like to share a special photo from 90th anniversary of celebration of Yerevan State University, founded in 1920. This photo is reminder of the optimism that has always been the driving force behind progress, whether in education, research, or collaboration. Together, I am confident that we will build a new horizons of cooperation and create lasting impact in our respective fields. Thank you for your participation, and I will share my screen and podium with the next presenter, Dr. Atman. Please put a recording, Anna. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Karen Antman, the current dean of Boston University's Chobanian and Avedisian School of Medicine. Thank you very much for inviting me to summarize the legacies of Aram V. Chobanian, who meant so much to so many people. He was a physician, an accomplished scientist, a teacher and a mentor, the dean and provost of the medical campus, a friend of Armenia, the Boston University president, certainly a family man, and finally a friend. He was born in 1929 in an Armenian-American neighborhood in Rhode Island. He played the clarinet for a while and developed a lifelong love of music. He ultimately gave the clarinet to a neighborhood friend's younger brother. We'll come back to that in a minute or so. He went on to receive a bachelor's degree in biology at Brown University and a doctorate of medicine from Harvard Medical School. He joined Boston University School of Medicine cardiology faculty in 1962. He quickly assumed leadership roles at the school. He established the role of hypertension in accelerating vascular disease and atherosclerosis in the laboratory. He was the founding director of the Whitaker Cardiovascular Institute to foster research, treatment, and education. In 1975, he became the director of Boston University's National Institutes of Health-funded National Hypertension Specialized Center of Research, and then led a joint national commission on detection, evaluation, and treatment for high blood pressure that developed the U.S. healthcare guidelines for hypertension. He became the dean of the medical school in 1988 and went on to become the provost of the medical campus in 1996. As the provost, he oversaw the merger of Boston City Hospital and University Hospital, creating Boston Medical Center, the medical school's major affiliated teaching hospital. He created BioSquare Research Park, a state-of-the-art life sciences laboratory, and supported the school's application for the National Emerging Infectious Disease Laboratories, which became a level 4 laboratory for emerging infectious disease on the medical campus. As dean, he developed the BU-Armenian Partnership. We have student and faculty exchange programs with Yerevan State Medical University and had medical aid programs, particularly after the earthquake and wars. He was elected to the National Academy of Sciences of the Republic of Armenia and the European Academy of Sciences. He was also elected to the board of the Fund for Armenian Relief, intended to improve the training of healthcare providers and to supply medicines and medical equipment. And in 2002, he was called to become the Boston University's 9th president. As president, he's oversaw a new set of governance policies and procedures established by the Board of Trustees. He opened Aganis Arena and the Fitness and Recreation Center and the Life Sciences Engineering Building during his tenure. President Chobanian presided over Boston University's graduations and met with BU dignitaries and guests, always accompanied by his beloved Jasmine as First Lady. Remember that clarinet? Well, Aram had given it to his neighborhood friend's younger brother, Edward Avedisian. Mr. Avedisian attended Boston University on a music scholarship and became a professional musician. He then did some investing while riding to concerts. He retired and became a philanthropist, particularly supporting schools in Armenia. He then donated $100 million to the Boston University School of Medicine, which was then renamed the Aram Chobanian and Edward Avedisian School of Medicine. Here's Aram and Edward enjoying the naming of the medical school in their honor. We gave them white coats and baseball hats, which they seemed very much to enjoy. Here's Aram with his extended family on the day of the naming underneath the new legend for the medical school. A year or two later, he very much enjoyed hooding his granddaughter, Dr. Vanessa Torres, on her graduation as a doctor of medicine in May of 2022. Although Aram died on August 31st, 2023 at age 94, his legacies live on in cardiovascular and hypertension research, in generations of physicians and scientists in both Boston and Armenia, in our BU Armenian Student Association, and our active BU Armenian partnership shown here on one of the more recent visits to Armenia. And finally, on the Boston University Medical Campus today, to which he has contributed so much. Thank you for this opportunity to review the legacies, and I hope you enjoy your meeting in Armenia.
Thank you, Dr. Atman. Thank you very much for this introduction. And I know you are online. Thank you to being with us today. I know how much Dr. Chobanian mean for you personally. He was in the search committee for you when he bring you to the BU and you continues his work. We are very, very thankful. I have one small surprise for you. When we are trying to find the faculty for this educational symposium, I was asking my friends, and eventually we come up with the name, a student of Boston University Medical School. He's a finishing resident in anesthesiology from Stony Brooks. And could you please put your camera so Dr. Atman will find out who you are, and you will presenting. Alina Razak, your former student, now he's a faculty for our conference. He's graduating his anesthesiology program, going to Johns Hopkins, right? So you can see the results of the education here. Different educators coming up under one roof to present Dr. Chobanian legacy and remembering him and teach our colleagues in Armenia. Saying that, I want to share a podium with Dr. Ara Tekian. Dr. Ara, if you want to say a few words before we'll start your lecture. You can put your microphone on and we will continue.
Hello, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to be participating in this, let's say, Aram Chobanian second international conference. This is a great work and contribution to the Armenian community and even internationally, those who have been attending. Congratulations for the organizers, and I will be around later to moderate a session, and if there are any questions, to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tekian. Anna, can we play a recording, please?
Hello, everyone. I am Ara Tekian, Professor of Medical Education at the University of Illinois College of Medicine. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to present about new teaching methods and strategies. This is part of the Aram Chobanian National Conference on Postgraduate Medical Education and Continuing Professional Development. In this presentation, I want to provide an overview of effective teaching methods as well as strategies that are currently applied globally. Engaging students and residents during teaching and prioritizing deep understanding of rote memorization is essential in modern medical education because it fosters critical thinking, long-term retention, and real-world clinical competence. Passive memorization may help learners recall isolated facts temporarily, but it often fails to prepare them for the complexity and unpredictability of clinical practice. In contrast, Active engagement through discussion, problem solving, and simulation encourages learners to connect concepts, recognize patterns, and apply knowledge in diverse contexts. Medical education is undergoing a transformative shift, moving beyond traditional lecture-based methods towards a dynamic, learner-centered approach that better prepares future physicians for the complexities of modern healthcare. This revolution is driven by a range of innovative teaching strategies that promote deeper understanding, critical thinking, and practical application. Modern teaching methods are more aligned with the demands of contemporary healthcare practice, promoting active learner-centered education that develops critical thinking, clinical reasoning, and teamwork skills, areas where traditional lecture-based teaching often falls short. Unlike passive memorization in conventional didactic lectures, innovative strategies like simulation, problem-based learning, and team-based learning immerse students in realistic, complex scenarios that mirror actual clinical environments. These methods encourage decision-making, adaptability, and reflective practice, which are crucial for managing unpredictable patient care solutions. Deeper learning is basically achieved through engagement. And here you see that we can practice active recall by, let's say, using question and answers, presenting case discussions that really encourage student participation. Elaboration is another way that we are elaborating certain concepts, basically to promote why behind the what. And of course, making meaningful connections helps in connecting the theoretical knowledge with practical clinical applications. All of these are ways for long-term retention. Current teaching methods in clinical medicine in Armenia involve a blend of traditional lectures with increasing emphasis on practical skills training through simulation and clinical rotations. There is a clear trend towards curriculum modernization, integration of basic and clinical sciences, development of communication and leadership skills, and a strong focus on continuous professional development for practicing physicians. However, I will say that there is a big margin for improvement. Here is the list of the current medical schools in Armenia. There are 10 of them. The first one, Yerevan State Medical University, is the state institution, and the rest of the 9 are all private medical schools. The graduate programs in Armenia, there are 2 tiers. The first tier prepares for the MBBS degree, and the second one, it's the residency training, which is the ordinatura. Instruction is primarily in Armenian, and both Ministry of Health and Ministry of Education and Science jointly oversee the postgraduate medical education. All the residency training programs are offered by universities and medical centers, and residents gain practical experience working under the supervision of experienced physicians. I was fortunate to be in I visit every year Armenia and teach at the American University of Armenia, but I had the opportunity to work with program directors and residents. It was a pilot study that if we do training of trainers of residency training programs, if they will be improving the level of education. And there is a lot of teaching methods involved. And for, last year, we conducted a faculty development session of the basics in medical education, both teaching methods, assessment methods, curriculum planning, and so on. This was all organized by Hinar, and hopefully it will be a useful practice to train the faculty with novel methods. Now, this part of the presentation will focus on effective teaching methods. And there are many, many methods, but I have selected only 6 typical methods that are currently very well utilized almost globally, I will say. And I will talk very briefly about each one, although you will have separate sessions about many of these teaching methods. The interactive lectures, as the title says, they are interacting. When you are lecturing, you are using a lot of questions. You can poll the students. You can have some short activities. And these are ways of making sure that you keep the attention of the students and making as engaging as possible, because it promotes understanding. The Bloom's taxonomy, here you see a list of verbs. And what we intend to do is from left where it says knowledge, and there is a list of verbs over there, name, recall, move during our practice, our teachings, and even in assessment, more towards the right. We don't want only for them to acquire knowledge, but we want to understand, apply, express, discuss, and then eventually start analyzing, comparing, contrasting, combining, designing, formulating, and even evaluating, estimating, and so on. So the more you move toward the rights, the better you are enhancing the understanding of facts rather than memorization of material. Here, this cartoon I like because it says if we are transferring, through lectures which are very which are not interactive at all. It's just pure lecture. So basically what is happening, transfer of information from teachers' notes to the students' notes without going through the brain of either. And we don't want this type of thing to happen. Our intention is to promote understanding and retention. And how we can achieve retention? By utilizing various methods of teaching. For example, we want to use the entire brain. And if we, let's say, if we want to retain material, if we are reading, this is not, let's say, rocket science, but I mean, roughly 20% of what we have read, we can remember. But if we read and hear, we can remember more. If we can read, hear, and see, it is even about, let's say, 40%. When we say and we do, it increases. So when we combine all these modalities, the retention of information, it is much higher. Here is this is a study. This is one of the very first studies 60 years ago, and has been repeated many times. We give lectures, and this was an experiment by a very brilliant scholar who was talking about an outstanding topic with audiovisuals and everything. And this was being recorded and carefully monitored. after 10 minutes, people started showing signs of after the 10% of the people started showing inattention after 15 minutes. So it means that when we are lecturing, our best time to capture the attention is 15 minutes. Then gradually it declines. And as we get to past about 35 minutes, almost everyone is inattentive. Also, this research indicates that 80% of the information delivered in lecture format is forgotten in 8 weeks. So if we are giving lectures, why don't we make them interactive? And to make, let's say, interactive, there are many ways. You can break the class into small groups. You can ask questions, and sometimes you can ask rhetorical questions. You can survey the class. You can nowadays use the audience response system. You can have clinical cases. You can organize debates, panel discussions, simulations, role-playing, audio visuals. So there are many, many ways, but it's important that you utilize rather than just give a lecture without making it interactive at all. The second interactive method, it's the concept of flipping the classroom. What does it mean, flipping? Normally in traditional settings, the students come to class, they hear a lecture, and then they go and, let's say, study and prepare for the exam. We don't want people to only prepare for exam, but we want to encourage them, their understanding. So the flipping classroom is that the material that you are going to present in your lecture, you give it ahead of time as an assignment. So it's the before class component. During the class, you use your time for discussion, case studies, problem solving, answering questions, and so on. So here you are promoting the understanding. And when the students go afterwards, read and review the material, their understanding, their level of analysis, evaluation, and so on, it is much higher. If we look again at Bloom's taxonomy, traditionally, what we were doing, let's say, the teachers introduce the new material, and the students, they go and they have to read and study and prepare for the exam. But in the flipped classroom, we are telling the students, come prepared to class, because we are not going to give the lecture. We are going to have utilized that discussion with application, applying on cases, clinical cases, scenarios, solving problems, and so on. The third one is problem-based learning. This had started, let's say, in the 60s, and one of the first institutions that used problem-based learning was McMaster University in Canada. So this one, basically, you are telling that if the student is going to solve problems the rest of his of his life, after graduating from medical school, why don't we teach problems that they will be facing very early on in the curriculum? So the way, let's say, the curriculum is organized is that they are given problems at the beginning, year one, very simple problems. But as they progress in the curriculum, it gets more complicated. So they read a problem, they break down into components, they go and read about that material, come to the class, discuss what they have read, they are given more questions, and they go and so on. So usually there is one problem longitudinally solved during per week. Traditionally, we were not giving any problems. We were giving the lecture for them to memorize, pass the examination, and when they go to the clinical years, start applying. But if you store the information in clinical context around problems that they have solved in small groups, they will be retrieving that information much more easily. Case-based learning is basically, but let's say, it's a structured discussion of clinical cases and presentations. It's very commonly used in medical schools and in residency training programs. And this is one of the best ways to promote critical thinking. And to, let's say, what is critical thinking? It is deeper than memorization and recall of factual information. When students think critically, they think deeply, and they do not only know the facts, but they take additional steps of going beyond the facts to do something with that information. It's not surface memorization. It's much deeper learning. Another method which is quite popular nowadays, it's team-based learning. Again, in the team-based learning, it's the concept of flipping the classroom. Let's say you are giving, let's say, let me show diagrammatically over here. Let's say it's usually a 2-hour session, but during the beginning, prior to start of the class, I tell that this is the discussion that we are going to have today. They have to come prepared, and I give them some materials assigned. When they come to class, I want to make sure that they have read the material. So like I can give 10 minutes of 10 multiple choice questions. This is the IRET, Individual Readiness Assurance Test, that everybody answers, and I collect that one immediately to make sure they came prepared or not. Then I tell them, now that you have answered individually, why don't you start in your small groups, answer the questions back again? And so there's a lot of discussion that goes on, because now they are comparing and reviewing the material, and if there is any questions, they can appeal and so on. Finally, it's we give application questions. Now that we have reviewed all the material, discussed and so on, let's see if you can apply. And designing such sessions are not easy, but these are done in small groups, but it's very effective. There's a lot of literature showing about the effectiveness. Now, I mean, when they are in the class, what we are doing at the first 10 minutes, we are testing their knowledge, which is the IRET, Individual Readiness Assurance Test. And then we say that now in your small group, discuss what you answered, and let's see. And we capture all that information. And we are talking about groups of 5 to 7. We use scratch cards. And here, for example, when they are in groups now, individually, they have responded, and we have captured all that information. As a group, they discuss, let's say, every question. They start scratching. They say, let's say collectively, if they said, okay, the answer is D, they scratch, and if there is an answer, it is correct. But if they scratched, for example, here on number 2, A, and there was no answer, they have to scratch another one. Now, if they have found this answer right from the start, they get 5. If they have got the second time, they got a 3. If they got, let's say, after the third time, it's 1, and after that, it is 0. We capture all this data. It's a very small percentage, but it engages them in collectively. Here, this is at University of Illinois, at our university. We have converted our pathology labs and so on into large, let's say, problem-based learning group sessions, a table with 6 chairs, and there are several tables. We have 200 students, and on each floor, we can have 100 students divided into groups of 6. Each group, they have their screen, they can project and so on, they can attach their laptops. So it's a very nice way of, let's say, conducting a team-based learning session. Of course, if you are in a workshop, you will understand much more when you go through an actual simulation. Finally, simulation-based learning, it is basically utilizing various because you are simulating a session, trying to provide as realistic and some hands-on experience, but in a very safe environment. In this book that I have published with my colleagues, it's one of the very initial books about simulation. And this was about innovative simulation from assessing professional competence, from simple paper and pencil to virtual reality. And the important thing here is that, I mean, the definition that we gave is that simulations are approximations to reality that require the trainee to react to problems or conditions under genuine circumstances. And if we look at simulations, roughly the way I have categorized, there are, part-time task trainers, there's virtual reality, there is computer-based systems, screen-based simulators, simulated patients, standardized or simulated, or we have sometimes created simulated environments. Even we have used simulations and, let's say, hybrid mannequins and simulations together. But it is endless, the opportunity of using simulations as an interactive teaching method. Now, all those methods that I was mentioning, they are ways of making the session as interactive as possible, so that they were all part of an active learning. Now, it's not enough to create and use various teaching methods, but there are other important strategies as well, like effective feedback and assessment. So the next slides, we'll talk about one of these strategies as well. When we are talking about effective feedback, we are talking about, let's say, providing constructive feedback to the students, to the residents, that reinforces learning. And it can be formative or summative. Formative, it is an ongoing feedback. I may do discussions, but I don't consider the grades, and it's only for them feedback, and I can know where are the weak points, and I can elaborate, I can have discussions, all of them. But at the end of a course or a semester, I do summative assessment as well, just to make sure that I have all the, let's say, I can make a decision, pass or fail. And there are many ways. For example, for the clinical years, we can use objective structured clinical examinations, which are encounters where there's a standardized patient and you are teaching. And we have also self-assessment and reflection. It's a way of hearing the reflection and giving feedback to the students. Relevance and context, it's another important strategy, because our intention is making sure that we are not only teaching theory and asking the students to memorize the facts, but we want to relate to practice. And we try to use as much as possible real-world cases. Also, besides the context is very important, because the medical students and residents, they don't work only alone. They are interacting with other professions like nurses and then other pharmacists and so on. So interprofessional education, it really fosters teamwork and understanding basically of different roles in patient care. Another thing is when you are doing all this teaching, creating a very positive environment, that's important because it is, let's say, we make clear that the objectives are clear, but it's a supportive environment that we are fostering an environment where the students feel comfortable asking questions, participating, or even making mistakes. Role modeling is very important because it positively influences the students and creates their interest. And in a positive learning environment, we want to make sure that whatever we are doing, we are finding little teachable moments to make sure that we are providing feedback. Utilizing technology is another important, particularly during the past 2 decades, where there are so many e-learning platforms, and there are interactive modules. There is augmented reality and virtual reality. I mean, it helps in the visualization, and we have digitalization. I mean, even we utilize now, there's a lot of digital assessment tools, particularly with all the artificial intelligence that provides so much of support in, let's say, both in teaching and in assessment. Finally, let's say, evidence-based learning strategies is also an important concept, because sometimes we just cram everything in a very short period of time, a few, let's say, sessions or 1 week intensive and so on. But when you space the, let's say, the material, the retrieval will be much more easier. And with the retrieval, of course, we are trying to elaborate material and then present it both verbally, visually, because we want retrieval of information. The more the frequency of the retrieval, the better is the outcome and, let's say, the understanding. So basically, in a conclusion, well, this paper actually it was published in 2024, and it's a systematic review of all the teaching methods and strategies, and it's a meta-analysis. The conclusion of the paper is that there is no one single best method for teaching. You have to utilize different methods depending on your context, the environment, availability of resources, and everything. So be very careful in selecting your teaching methods and your strategies. So in conclusion, we talked about various teaching methods, team-based learning, problem-based learning, flipped classroom, and so on. But the rest of the strategies, the effective feedback, the assessment, the relevance, context, the environment, utilization of technology, and so on, are also very important. And by incorporating these teaching strategies, medical educators can create more effective and engaging learning experiences that prepare future physicians to provide high quality patient care, which is basically our intention. Thank you for your attention, and if there are any questions, I will be available for answering them later.
Thank you, Dr. Tekian, for very informative lectures. I think this is the very good overview before our presenters coming and present each method separately, and we will have an active panel discussion. Before our break, I think we have another 12 minutes time, and I really want the collect the questions from our audience and see if we will have questions from our participants. If not, of course, I am thinking that our panelists might have some questions to you. So we have a time to answer this question. Anna, can you monitor if we have a question from our audience and read a few questions? Rafi, please go ahead, and Anna will collect other questions. Please unmute yourself, Rafi.
Fantastic talk, Dr. Tekan. Learned so much. It was fantastic, great. Just a quick question. Where do you think the future is going to lead to? Because we see this in the history as starting to change, and adding, and some of them getting even obsolete. What do you think the next will be?
Thanks. That's a very important question. Most people ask. We introduce various, let's say, teaching methods to make sure that we are, let's say, engaging our students. And our intention is always deep understanding and retention. However, with the technology, a lot of things are changing. Nowadays, we use virtual reality and AI, artificial intelligence. Particularly at our university, we are building certain platforms where students will be getting feedback individually as they perform, let's say, if they have any encounters or with patients, with, or let's say, in a group or performing a procedure. And also, it's a very important resource for reviewing materials, reading. So now AI is very highly integrated teaching at all levels of the continuum within the medical education. But we have to be very careful where to trust and where to use the human judgment to make sure that what you are getting is accurate. AI is very intelligently adapting any feedback that you provide. But the future is all AI.
Thank you, Dr. Tekian. Dr. Babluyan, you have a question. Please, go ahead.
You're on mute, Dr. Babloyan. You're on mute.
Yeah, այո, լսում ենք, շնորհակալ ենք, որ ներկա եք, yes.
Հիանալի զեկույցեր եւ ձեզ ասեմ, եթե չունենանք հնարավորություն ձեր գիրքը սեղանին ունենալու, ապա այս զեկույցը պետք է գրանցած ունենանք մեզ մոտ, որովհետեւ դուք լավ գիտեք, որ հիմա Հայաստանի առողջապահությունը լուրջ բարեփոխումների մեջ է եւ հետ դիպլոմային կրթությունը նույնպես, եւ կարծում եմ, որ ձեր այս գիտելիքը եւ ձեր փորձը շատ կարեւոր է, որ դուք կարողանաք այսպես շատ ինտենսիվ աշխատեք Հայաստանի առողջապահության կազմակերպիչների եւ բժշկական համալսարանի եւ բոլոր այն մարդկանց հետ, որոնք որ այս պահին աշխատում են բարեփոխումների վրա, որովհետեւ ինչ խոսք ձեր այս բոլոր ներկայացրածների մի մասը արդեն մենք տեսնում ենք մեր մոտեցումների մեջ, բայց դեռ մենք բավականին հեռու ենք այս ամենից եւ շատ կարեւոր է, որ կարողանանք միասին ձեռք բռնած առաջ գնանք։ Շնորհակալություն ձեր հիանալի զեկույցի համար։
Մեծ հաճույքով, քանի որ ամեն տարի գայցել եմ Հայաստան եւ ամերիկյան համալսարանի մեջ գտասավանդ եմ եւ առիթը ունեցած եմ հիվանդանոցները այցելելու եւ ներկա ռեզիդենտներուն հետ շահվելու շատ գարելիություն կա եւ մանավանդ նոր սերունդի մեջ եղող ուսուցիչները եւ բժիշկները շատ հետաքրքրություն ունին։ Միանթե իրենց պետք է առիթ դրվի, որ գարենան ասնորդ սևերը ոչ թե միայն ասենք թե հասկանալ, բայց իրակորձեն իրենց հիվանդանոցներուն մեջը։ Գարելություն շատ գա եւ բզդիկ, այսինքն հիմա էքսպերիմենտներ սկսած ենք, որ երբ որ հաջող պրոգրամը ստեղծենք, ամեն մարդ նայելով կարելի է իրենքալ բանանել, հետևել։ Sorry, I responded in Armenian for the non-Armenian audience, but let me tell that there's big potential for training the trainers, particularly residency program directors, who are very much willing to introduce these methods, but they need to be given the opportunity, both the training and eventually the resources.
Dr. Tekan, all your Armenian part of your speech was translated, so I'm sure that
I
so
don't have
we have,
to,
yeah.
yes. Okay.
And Zalim, can you? I saw you raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, dear Professor Tekian. It's always a pleasure to see you and listen to your lectures. You opened one of the very first master's program in faculty development. My question is, we know there are effective technologies, not necessarily new. How to make or somehow motivate faculty members to use them instead of those which they are using already, even understanding they are not effective? How to change attitudes?
But actually, that's an important question, Zalim. And role modeling is one of the most effective methods. At our university, first we try to create a very positive environment and encourage all our faculty, whatever they are doing, but involve them in other, let's say, training programs, ongoing faculty development, so that they come and they share their experiences, their frustrations, and if there are new methods they can incorporate, the medical education department is there to support them. And what we do also, anything that they are doing innovative and it is cutting edge, that promotes the field, we try to publish so that dissemination is equally important. So not only they are involved, they are getting publications in major refereed journals, which is a reward for them. That's how we have so many even people, applicants to the master's program, certificate program, and so on, just to be involved. The only thing is structured guidance for them, assistance and mentoring to get where they want to be. The interest is there, but there has to be a one-to-one follow-up as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tekian. Dr. Atman, do you have any questions before we will do a 5 minutes break and grab a coffee? Dr. Atman, if you have any questions, you can unmute your microphone and ask the questions. Otherwise, we will go for a 5 minutes break.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think because we have a panel discussion later, we will keep all other questions coming from audience and we will answer at that time. And as I mentioned, we will have a 5 minutes break for grab a cup of coffee. And during this break, we will see the videos from our sponsor, Fund for Armenian Relief. And also we will get more knowledge about the ICPD, the organization which organized this lecture. Thank you very much. We have, in a 5 minutes, we will restart our session. Thank you.
այստեղ գյուղում ժողովարին ասին ով ուզում է սենց բաներ անի, ես էլ գնացի մասնակցեցի ու հետո դասընթացներ արինք, շահեց այդ ծրագիրը ու դա սկսվեց։
Բավականին երկար ժամանակ ընտրություն է եղել աշխատանքային process-ի մեջ ու դրա համար ես վերապատրաստման կարիքը զգում եմ։ Շատ գոհ եմ եւ ինֆեկցիոն հիվանդանոցի բժիշկներից, ովքեր իմ վերապատրաստումով զբաղվում են եւ հոգի մասնագետներից։
Օգտվում եմ բարեգործական ճաշարանից եւ հաճախել են իմ պապիկ տատիկը շատ վաղուց 90-ական թվերից
լսել էր, որ հոգու բազմաթիվ ուսանողների աջակցում։ Մի քանի օր հետո զանգը ստացա, ասացին, որ շնորհավորում եմ, կանցել է Քոֆի Մարդիկյան կրթավճարը։
8 տարեկան երեխա էս տղես։ Ասում է հայը պարտվող չի, մենք չենք պարտվել, մենք մեկը հաղթել ենք։ Դա ես երևույթ ունեմ հաղթել, պարտվել, պետք է առաջ գնանք։
Hello, my name is Rafi Avedisyan, and I am a professor of anesthesiology in the United States of America. Currently, I serve as the president of the International Center for Professional Development, or ICPD. The board of directors of ICPD is proud to announce its collaboration with the Armenian Medical World Congress 2025. ICPD in Armenia was created with the goal of providing resources to continuously improve knowledge and experience in healthcare sciences for the physicians and other healthcare professionals, as well as medical technology experts. Since its creation in 2020, this center has developed multiple educational conferences that have created an opportunity for physicians and other medical professionals in Armenia and worldwide to network, learn, and share their knowledge and experience. It has provided numerous hours of continuous medical education credits for the participants by inviting world-class speakers to its conferences. We welcome the opportunity to collaborate with all other organizations that are active in providing educational resources for practicing healthcare professionals. The ICPD has collaborated with AMWC 2025 in organizing a symposium addressing continuous medical education. In this symposium, we've invited more than 12 organizations to present their activities and share their strengths, experiences, as well as opportunities to improve, so that we can have a mutual front in fulfilling our mission and to contribute to continuous professional development through affordable, high quality, and informative resources. We invite you to participate in the Armenian Medical World Congress 2025, which will take place July 3rd to 5th in Madrid, Spain. I sincerely hope to see you all there. Հարգելի գործընկերներ, մասնագիտական զարգացման միջազգային կենտրոնի առաքելությունն է Հայաստանի Հանրապետության եւ Սփյուռքի բժիշկների եւ այլ առողջապահության գիտելիքների մասնագետների համար որակյալ շարունակական կրթական միջոցառումներ կազմակերպել։ Այս տարի ICPD-ն ուրախ է հայտնելու իր համագործակցությունը հայկական բժշկական միջազգային կոնգրեսի 2025 AMWC 2025 հետ։ Այս կոնգրեսի ընթացքում ICPD-ին շարունակական բժշկական կրթական վերաբերյալ մի սիմպոզիոմ պիտի հյուրընկալի, հրավիրելով ավելի քան 12 հաստատությունների իրենց գործունեությունը եւ իրենց փորձառությունը ներկայացնելու եւ առիթ ստեղծելու աշխատել միասնականորեն իրենց առաքելության հասնելու համար։ Հույս ունեմ այս տարի բոլորիդ հանդիպել բժշկական միջազգային կոնգրեսի AMWC 2025-ի առիթով հուլիսի 3-ից 5-ը Մադրիդ, Իսպանիայում։ Շնորհակալություն։
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Rafi and FAR for sponsoring very important information Rafi provided now today. And I want to start our second session and introduce moderator of this section, Dr. Vartui Petrosyan, my very dear friend. Dr. Vartui Petrosyan is a professor and dean at the Turpanjan College of Health Sciences, American University of Armenia. She directs the Avetisyan Ohanyan Center of Health Services Research and Development. Dr. Petrosyan holds degrees from Yerevan State University, University of Idaho, and a master's of Johns Hopkins University. She has led numerous health services research projects in Armenia, focusing on public health services, emergencies, tobacco control, and more. She has served in various advisory roles for Armenian government and is currently a member of several health-related advisory boards. Dr. Petrosyan has also been as associate editor for the International Journal for Equity in Health and has authored many peer-reviewed publications. We worked with the Vartui many years, past when I was in Armenia. I think Vartui at that time, we established the possibility for MPH program with the AVA. Some of our students during their MD degrees, they're attending MPH program. And I'm very proud that the Vartui will be leading this second session because, as I mentioned in the past, one of the institutions which is taking a very critical role in medical education, it's AVA. They have a special course, and Dr. Aratekian is a faculty traveling twice a year to AVA and teaching there. So Vartui, stage is yours. Please introduce our next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yakjan, for the generous introduction. This session is devoted to innovative teaching methodologies, and our first speaker is Dr. Stefan Ludwig, who is the Senior Advisor for Medical Education and Senior Attending Physician at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. He also serves as the Director of International Medicine Education. He is a Professor of Pediatrics at the University of Pennsylvania Perelman School of Medicine. Dr. Ludwig, the floor is yours.
Hello, this is Stephen Ludwig speaking to you from the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine in Philadelphia. This lecture will be about the adult learner, and it's put together by me and members of the faculty at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. By the end of this session, you should be able to incorporate adult learning theory into medical teaching and how to use the assessment of the learner in your educational interactions. There's a distinction between teaching and education. To teach means to explain or give information induced by example or by punishment. To educate means to illuminate, enlighten, mentor, advise, and guide. And Socrates said that education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel. What are the ways that we learn? Well, we learn certainly based on our motivation, which is a level of tension and difficulty, internal and external. We learn through feedback or reinforcement, both positive and negative. We learn through retention, and this may be dependent on producing a framework and adding information to that framework. And finally, we learn to transfer knowledge, to generalize, that we learn one concept and learn how to generalize it to be used for the next patient. Adult learning is andrology. Adults need to appreciate, why do I need to learn this? This is different from the students in school who are forced to learn what the teacher teaches. With adult education, we need to establish why. Why does the learner need to learn this? The material has to be timely and relevant. It has to have a context. That is, you need to teach the learner, how will I use this new knowledge? Adults bring an element of self-direction to their learning. They have background, they have experience, and they bring that to the learning situation. And they want to add new knowledge to their existing knowledge base. All of learning can be broken down into knowledge, attitudes, and skills. And in order for the teacher to be effective, the teacher needs to be aware of the student's knowledge, attitude, and skills. And the learner has to be aware of their knowledge, attitudes, and skills. Without assessing where the learner is, a teacher may waste time. The student may already have the knowledge. The attitude may be already possessed. The skill may only need reinforcement. So in the teaching situation, the one-on-one preceptor to learning relationship is a prime opportunity for assessing the learner. What are the objectives for the time spent in an activity? The teacher needs to ask the learner, what are you trying to get out of this experience? And assess the learner, where are the learner's needs? Unless the teacher makes this assessment of where the learner stands and what the learner needs, the episode will not be successful. Well, how do you assess knowledge? You assess knowledge not by interrogation, but by questioning, and let the student know the purpose of the questioning is to assess, not to judge them. Questions should not be posed with a purpose to ask until someone is stumped or doesn't know the answer. But questions are asked to figure out, where does this learner stand? Assessments are made by questioning, and there are different kinds of questions and different methods of questions. For example, there are factual questions. What are the frequent findings in pneumonia, for instance? That's asking a factual question. But then also think about using broadening questions. What else could this be? Justifying questions. Challenge ideas and assess the depth of knowledge and understanding. What is your plan and why do you have that plan? You can ask the learner hypothetical questions. What if the patient also had a fever? What if the patient were older? What would you think about? Or alternative questions. What if we choose to treat as an outpatient instead of admitting this patient? You also need to make assessments of the learner's attitude. To do this, you need to develop rapport and include the learners as full participants. You need to be accessible and patient, and certainly to be empathetic and non-judgmental. And how do you assess skills? Well, in order to assess skills, you need to observe. Everything else is just a proxy, and we tend to rely heavily on self-report when the student or the resident presents a patient to us. We accept that. But as George Engel said, what if a music student were taught the way medical students are? That is, send them into a room, and when they come out, ask them, are they able to play this concert? That can't happen that way. The skills must be assessed by observation. Observe the learner's level of competence, accompany the learner, and set some ground rules. Prior to observation, describe what you are looking for and look for nonverbal cues such as the learner's comfort or confidence. While teaching knowledge, you can be an active teacher. There can be shared interaction, or the learner can be active and the teacher a passive recipient. Teaching attitude, this is done mainly through role modeling and feedback. And teaching skills, again, important to see the demonstration of the skills, to supervise, to monitor, and to assist by providing appropriate autonomy. Feedback is very important for the learner. Once you have taught and they have learned, you need to focus on feedback, focus on behavior, not personal traits. Start with the learner's self-assessment. How do you think you're doing? And go from there. And always engage in active listening to what the learner has to say. This is a website that you can look at in terms of directed learning. So to summarize, use knowledge of adult learning skills to guide your teaching. Adult learners are different from younger student learners. Assess your learners' needs. See where they stand as far as knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And use the techniques of role modeling, demonstration, and feedback to increase the learner's knowledge, attitudes, and skills. This is a bibliography of some of the materials for teaching the adult learner.
Bartu, before your next speaker introduction, I just want to add that I saw some questions about where you can get the knowledge about the medical education. Dr. Stephen Ludwig was a faculty member at the Salzburg Medical Seminars, which organizing by Open Medical Institute. And they are doing every 2 years, they have a medical education session. I believe in 2026, they have a medical education session. So please go to the Open Medical Institute website, see the possibilities. You need to sign. You are going through the interview process, and if you will be chosen, you will be able to travel. Unfortunately, Dr. Ludwig is not coming to the seminars anymore. He was our faculty, but all his educational faculty from Children's Hospital of Philadelphia traveling and presenting. They have a very amazing teachers who can teach you to use all these medical education skills. Thank you. I am muting my microphone, and please go ahead.
Dear participants, please remember that you will have the opportunity to write your questions in the question answer box, and at the end of the session, we will allocate some time for answering your questions. So next we have a pair of speakers. Dr. Mariam Asudar is an assistant professor at the School of Health Professions Education at Maastricht University in the Netherlands. She is an educationalist specializing in instructional design and e-learning. She is actively contributing to curriculum development and teacher training, combining educational technologies with evidence-based approaches to enhance learning effectiveness. And the pair is Dr. Anna Isahakyan, who is a PhD candidate at the School of Health Professions Education at Health Medicine and Life Sciences faculty at Maastricht University, Netherlands. She is a member of the Inter-University Center for Educational Sciences in the Netherlands and Belgium, and she has background in medicine and public health. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Today, together with Mariam, we will be speaking about problem-based learning. We will share what problem-based learning is, how it can be implemented, and we hope to inspire some of you to consider using PBL in postgraduate medical education and continuing professional development in Armenia. According to Paris, problem-based learning is a learning method based on the principle of using problems as a starting point for the acquisition and integration of new knowledge. As Wood highlighted, PBL is not about problem solving per se, but rather it uses appropriate problems to increase knowledge and understanding.
Okay, so problem-based learning is based on some core principles, and the main principles are constructive, collaborative, contextual, and self-directed learning. The whole point is that we want students to be constructing meaning in their mind as they go forward. So really linking what they are learning now to what they knew about this topic, so they can build on what they knew, and this will help them with learning. So they would be really active learners, really coming up with, this is what I knew about this topic, and now this is what I'm adding to it. And collaboratively, they build that meaning. So something I know about the topic, and then something my peer knows, and another peer knows. So when we work in the group, we kind of bring together what we know and we try to convince each other, and that's how we share information. And if it's contextualized, it means that it is taken out of an authentic environment, something that I, as a student, will encounter later in life as well. Thinking that, okay, this is a problem, and this is something that will come back to me again when I leave my education and I go to the workplace environment. So it's really contextualized in the fields that I will be working in. And there's the element of self-directed learning to it, which means that the answers are not provided immediately to the students. They're really encouraged to think and to see what they need. Students are at different levels. Some students may need to work harder or have heard less about this topic, so they need to learn more. And that's how you kind of manage your time and manage what you learn and how you learn it. So you are in charge of your learning. And when you do it, how you do it is all up to you. You are a member of a group, so you are also responsible for the group. But then it also comes down to, what do I want to add to this, and how do I learn it, and how do I plan my time, and what are my learning goals when it comes to this specific context? We expect the students to be really standing on their own feet. So PBL at Maastricht University is conducted with 7 jumps, as we call it. So 7 different steps that the students follow, and that's the tutorials. So what happens in the tutorials, because PBL itself is larger than just the tutorials. But if we zoom in the tutorials, we see that if you go through the 7 jumps, we believe at Maastricht University that learning will happen. So the 7 jumps are all written here for you. where the students get together and there's a tutor in the class, but it is meant to be there as a facilitator. But the students sit down together and they clarify the concepts, define the problem, they analyze the problem, and then systematically classify what they have done through wild brainstorming, and formulate learning goals for each other or for the course that they are going through. So what are we trying to get out of this case that has been put, or this problem that has been put in front of us? And then it's self-study, which is a period between this session and the next session that they will be sitting with each other, and then the next session they will have discussions. Okay, so we already also talked a little bit about this. So how are the tutorials conducted? It's good to know that not everything of those 7 jumps is in one session. It is actually done within a period. So let's say that if the first session is done on a Thursday, then the second session will be done on the Tuesday of next week, more or less, something like that, so that the students also have this time that they can work on the problem. So if every week they have 2 sessions, one would be a pre-discussion, which is for session 1, where they're introduced to the problem, they put forward what they know about this problem, and they try to build on each other's knowledge about this problem, and they come up with learning goals. But then when the session finishes, they go and investigate about this problem, and they want to answer their learning goals now. They work towards their learning goals. And then during the second session, they get together and they start discussing what they found. And, you know, during the first session, it was more brainstorming and based on what they knew. But during the second session, it's now evidence-based. So they come having read literature, having looked at what's out there, and they want to share this with their peers and learn together and kind of convince each other of how this is the answer to the actual problem and how they got there. Yeah, how is problem-based learning different to traditional methods? Because if you look at problem-based learning as the larger picture, I know we just explained the tutorials, but problem-based learning in a larger picture also has lectures in it, also has workshops and trainings, and then there are also tutorials. But how is it different to the traditional methods? In PBL, there is a facilitator, so it's not really a teacher who is the expert and provides the knowledge to the students, but more somebody who's there as a guide and support for the students, who answers questions. So it means that it has to be initiated by the students rather than the expert knowledge standing in front of the class and giving out knowledge. The students take more of an active role because it's their responsibility, self-directed learners, it's their responsibility to plan what they want to learn, how they want to learn it, and you know, come up with their learning goals with regards to this topic. So they're not sitting there with somebody giving them information, but they are there producing the information, putting it together and bringing reason behind why they think this should be the way they are presenting it. So they're also defending what they're putting forward, so it's evidence-based. It's not based on memorizing anything, but more on bringing reasons. And I'm saying it's evidence-based, so they have to bring arguments as to why they are working like this. Yeah, and it's collaborative, so you kind of put it together with your peers, and you have them to support you and you to support them, and everybody is in charge of their own learning. So there are problem-based learning doesn't necessarily have to be following the 7 jumps. So saying that, okay, there are lectures and everything, and then there comes the tutorials where it has the 7 jumps. But you can get creative as long as you have the PBL principles: constructive, collaborative, contextual, and self-directed learning. So there are some creative ways of running the PBL where all these elements, the CCCS, are shown in there. So there's a QR code, and you can look at these videos, which are self-explanatory anyway, but I can explain it to you. So there's like team-based learning, which is another method of teaching. But then you see, if in team-based learning, you can incorporate the CCCS. You can also bring it close. and use it in the structure, in the tutorial sessions of the problem-based learning. There's the tutorless PBLs, tutorials, because we say that the role of the tutor is more of a facilitator, a support for the students, so they feel that they still have that guide. But there have been occasions where the tutor has been taken away for purposes, for the students to think harder and to be able to stand on their own feet and really dig deeper into what is expected of them through these cases that they have to go through. Interprofessional collaboration is also one example, because when students graduate from universities, they don't end up taking that theoretical knowledge with them, and then using only the theoretical knowledge will not get them anywhere. It's more like, how do you use that in practice? And then you see that in the world there are students who have studied in research universities or research-oriented universities, and then also applied universities. And for these people to be able to work together, you also need to know how things go within or how the others have been learning and what their knowledge of the others are. So already introducing students to real-world problems and real-world collaborations that they will be facing later on is an aspect that can be taken into consideration. And then also flipping the PBL classroom, which is pretty much giving the students the material to prepare them before they come to classroom, and then in classroom they have to use what they have learned. So they have to use the knowledge that they have learned. This is where they become really active learners rather than passively just gaining knowledge. They feel responsible that the knowledge was uploaded for them. They had access to it. They were supposed to prepare and then come to class and implement what they had learned.
Of course, like any other method, implementing PBL in practice comes with its challenges. Now we will talk about some common problems that we may encounter when using PBL in educational practice. These are not all the challenges. For example, issues with assessment are also important. But here, I'm talking about the problems that are most common that we encounter in practice. Moreover, these problems are closely interconnected. The first, two well-structured problems. Effective problem design in PBL is challenging, and overly simple, unrealistic, or closed-ended problems can hinder active learning. Next, overly directed tutors, such as too dominant or sometimes too passive, can negatively affect the learning process and reduce the self-directed nature of the method. And dysfunctional tutorial groups in PBL often suffer from poor preparation and lack of meaningful collaboration. For example, poorly designed problems that do not align with students' prior knowledge may result in disengagement and dysfunctional group dynamics. Similarly, ineffective tutor facilitation can contribute to the breakdown of the group collaboration. And how we can solve problems with PBL in educational practice, it's simple. Use a complex, realistic, open-ended problems. Also align those problems with students' prior knowledge. Tutors should prioritize learning process over content delivery. For example, focus on creating conditions that enable students to learn actively rather than simply delivering expected content. Also, regularly evaluate group dynamics and design a learning environment that encourages constructive, self-directed, collaborative, and contextual learning. But also, you need to ensure alignment among all aspects of the curriculum, including problems used, tutor guidance, and assessment methods. And why PBL for postgraduate medical education? Because it encourages independent learning, it stimulates reflection, it improves clinical reasoning as well as critical thinking, but also promotes evidence-based decision-making and facilitates teamwork and peer communication. These are important skills that healthcare professionals should have and keep improving. PBL helps not only with learning knowledge, but also with building skills like thinking critically, working in a team, and communicating well. all of which are important for good patient care. And now I will talk a little bit about the key benefits across the globe about implementing PBL in postgraduate medical education and continuing medical education. So in United Kingdom, for example, they found that it is increasing confidence and research appraisal skills, but also it improves trainee satisfaction and learning atmosphere. And in Netherlands, the randomized controlled trial found that PBL sessions are more effective than lectures in improving performance. And if we look at Australia, they found that it fosters evidence-based behavior change. We know that achieving behavior change through traditional lectures and medical education is difficult, and using PBL might be a solution to this long-standing problem. And also you can use PBL in continuing medical education, as we see examples from United States that it increases perceived effectiveness for information retention and practice change. But also in Canada, studies show that it leads to greater knowledge acquisition and clinical reasoning skills. And some suggestions for implementing problem-based learning in Armenia. So what you can do, you can establish a regional PBL hubs, for example, medical centers in Yerevan, Gyumri, Vanadzor, or in other places you can use to pilot in-person small group PBL sessions. Also, you can engage the Armenian diaspora to invite Armenian professionals abroad to serve as online PBL facilitators, for example. And also you can develop authentic cases. By authentic, I mean creating a PBL scenarios based on Armenian public health priorities and clinical realities. Yeah, and that was it. Thank you very much for your attention and interest in our presentation. We truly appreciate the opportunity to share our knowledge with you. If you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, we will be happy to discuss them with you.
Thank you, Dr. Isahakyan and Dr. Asudar. And our next speaker is Dr. Alina Razak. She is a fourth-year anesthesiology resident at Stony Brook Medicine, where she serves as the academic mentorship program resident director. She earned her medical degree from the Boston University Chobanian and Avedisian School of Medicine. After completing residency, she will be pursuing a fellowship in regional anesthesiology and acute pain medicine at Johns Hopkins. The floor is yours.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Alina Razak. I am a PGY4 anesthesiology resident at Stony Brook Hospital in New York, and today I'm going to be discussing a topic regarding mastering feedback and criticism to enhance performance and team dynamics. I have no financial disclosures. I have 3 key learning objectives for today. First, to understand the importance of effective feedback and constructive criticism and its relevance to patient safety. Second, to describe 3 different models of delivering feedback. And third, to continue to build a culture of feedback in our daily interactions. I wanted to start with a few images of my medical journey so far, first as an undergraduate and then as a medical student at Boston University, where Dr. Chobanian was the former president. I am very grateful to his legacy, especially his work with Boston City Hospital and the medical school, and for all the teachers and supervisors who have taught me and provided me with key feedback during my medical education journey. Most recently, I had the opportunity to travel to Armenia with the Department of Anesthesiology at Stony Brook Medicine, where we worked with the team at Arab Care Medical Center and got a chance to experience such a beautiful country and culture. So how can we define feedback? A seminal paper in JAMA from 1983 documented the necessity of feedback in the medical education process. They define feedback as the control of a system by reinserting into the system the results of its performance, or closing the loop. The important components to remember is that feedback is necessary, it is valuable, and it's not as difficult as we make it out to be with the correct insight and planning. In the article, they compare medicine to ballet, both of which are best performed when presented in front of a mirror. Feedback occurs when a student or resident is offered insight into what he or she actually did, as well as the consequences of his or her actions. This insight is valuable insofar as it highlights the gap or the dissonance between the intended result and the actual result, thereby providing a spark for change. An article from a medical education journal notes that feedback is specific information about the comparison between a trainee's observed performance and a standard, with the goal to improve the trainee's performance. It is a non-negotiable component of the learning process to narrow the gap between the actual and desired performance. Feedback is a key component of the medical infrastructure, not just for individual providers, but also for the system as a whole. In particular, timely, specific feedback improves patient safety, allows for continuous improvement, and allows us to learn from prior errors. Especially in high-stakes environments where patients' lives are in our hands, effective feedback creates trust and accountability. On an individual level, we are lifelong learners and seek to provide the best patient care possible, which can only be accomplished by going through the feedback cycles. A quick note about feedback in comparison to a formal evaluation or an assessment. So while an assessment is typically documented after multiple observations and shared formally with supervisors, feedback is in real time and primarily verbal, with the intent of commenting on the current performance. Feedback is formative rather than summative. For example, directly observe feedback regarding a procedure being done. So what are some challenges to giving feedback? In 2019, a survey was performed and published in the Journal of Education in Perioperative Medicine, and they came up with several themes and challenges that were described by survey respondents, including insufficient time, where a high clinical workload reduces the opportunity for timely and thorough feedback; insufficient exposure, where there was concern about feedback being perceived in a personal way that can damage the learner-teacher relationship. Sometimes the hierarchy in medicine can sometimes discourage open dialogue between learners and supervisors. Confidence in skills, difficulty translating specific observations into actionable items, and there was a fear of negative reactions or retaliations, where the student may view feedback as a statement about his or her personal worth or potential. We will discuss ways in which we can manage these different challenges. On the other hand, what are some principles of effective feedback? First, feedback should be timely and private. Feedback is most impactful when delivered soon after the observed behavior. Immediate feedback allows learners to connect insights directly to their actions and apply changes in real time. Second, feedback must be specific. General comments like "good job" or "you need to improve" lack the detail needed to guide improvement. Instead, focus on observable behaviors, which we will discuss shortly. Third, feedback should be balanced. Highlighting strengths before addressing areas for improvement helps build confidence and ensures the learner is more receptive to constructive criticism. Fourth, feedback should be delivered with empathy. Understanding the learner's perspective helps to reduce defensiveness and foster a supportive learning environment. We all remember what it was like to be a resident. Finally, effective feedback must be actionable and solution-oriented. It is not enough to point out what went wrong. Learners need clear, realistic steps to improve. By combining these steps into our feedback, we can provide our residents with the tools needed to enhance both their professional growth and patient outcomes. What are some things that are helpful to give feedback on? We can break this into clinical skills, communication skills, and professionalism. Clinical skills include medical knowledge, clinical decision-making, and procedural skills, while communication skills include building a rapport with the patient, family, and the rest of the team. And finally, professionalism includes attitude, self-awareness, and adaptability. These are all areas where specific feedback can be given to residents. Now that we understand the foundation of what makes up effective feedback, let's talk about some different ways of giving feedback. We will discuss 3 models: the feedback sandwich, ask, tell, ask, and R2C2. The first method is the feedback sandwich, which provides constructive feedback between 2 positive comments. The goal is to reduce defensiveness and increase the resident's receptivity to feedback. For example, an anesthesiology resident is planning a case under general endotracheal anesthesia on a patient who might need ICU care postoperatively. However, this concern was not brought up with the surgical team beforehand. So if we were giving feedback, we would start with some praise by saying you were well prepared for the case with all the necessary equipment and you managed the airway expertly. However, I noticed that while you knew this patient needed ICU care afterwards and the patient was very sick, it may have been helpful to inform the surgical team of your concerns so that we could arrange for an ICU bed postoperatively. Often, communicating with everyone on the team can be very beneficial for the patient. Otherwise, you manage the patient's comorbidities well. Another model is called ask, tell, ask. This model is a dialogue between attending and resident to allow for more self-reflection and self-guided learning. There are 3 steps. First, ask the resident's self-assessment. Step 2, tell the resident your observations in a specific way and provide feedback on something that went well and something that could be improved upon and how to achieve this goal. Then, step 3, ask the resident again to gauge understanding. For example, a surgical trainee scrubbed in for a case. This feedback would occur at the end of the case in a quiet and private location. First, ask for the trainee's self-assessment. They would say, I think I did a better job with keeping the instrument tip in view, but could have been a little more efficient with suturing at the end. Tell, yes, I agree that you did a good job with the visualization. I agree you could have been a bit more efficient with the suturing. Sometimes it helps to practice in the skills lab or at home. And then ask again, check the trainee's understanding. They would say, yes, I think that's a good idea. I will practice that this week. Perhaps we can readdress this the next time we work together. Have a plan for improvement with the resident. The last model for giving feedback that we will discuss is called R2C2, which has 4 components. First, rapport and relationship building. 2, exploring reactions to feedback. 3, exploring the feedback content. And 4, coaching for change. The model seeks to have a more humanistic and person-centered approach by incorporating guided self-assessment, coaching, and relationship building to allow for a sense of personal responsibility. When this model was utilized in graduate medical education, residents surveyed felt that R2C2 facilitated meaningful feedback, clear goals for improvement, and strategies to meet these goals. In the first phase, the supervisor builds a relationship to engage the learner. Supervisors are genuinely interested about the learner's experiences, challenges, successes, and goals. During the conversation, there's a discussion regarding strengths and areas for improvement. In the second phase, there is time to speak specifically about an area for improvement and feedback that the learner has previously received. This is an open dialogue to ensure the learner feels understood and their perspectives are also taken into account. It is an opportunity to explore the learner's emotional reactions to the feedback. In the third phase, the focus switches more to the actual content of the feedback to ensure that the learner understands what it means and the opportunities it suggests for improvement. In the last phase, the supervisor coaches for change by helping the learner identify specific goals and observable changes. A written plan is often developed to ensure the plan is more likely to be followed and to demonstrate that milestones have been met. I have included a few excellent links for additional information and guides for implementing R2C2 in different practice settings, as well as a helpful video demonstrating the technique. Now it's time to discuss the other side of the feedback relationship. I have been addressing the teachers a lot this presentation, so now it's the residents and learners portion of the feedback relationship. In almost everything we do, we need help from the people around us in improving because we cannot see our own behaviors and the things we create in the same objective way that other people can see them. It's important that we understand the purpose of criticism. It is not a personal attack. The goal is to make us better clinicians and improve patient care. We are unable to improve without hearing where we went wrong and how to correct it. Here are a few steps when receiving feedback. First, stop and take a deep breath. Separate the content from how it may have been delivered. Reflect and use it as a learning opportunity. Acknowledge your feelings, but don't take it personally. And finally, learn something and move on. Overall, use what you have learned so you don't repeat the same mistakes. Sometimes it can feel very overwhelming to receive feedback, but just know that it will get better as you process the feedback and you improve in your patient care. Now that we have discussed different models for providing feedback and a framework for getting in the right mindset to receive feedback, I would like to zoom out to the departmental and hospital level. Building a feedback culture starts with psychological safety, particularly in diverse groups. Psychological safety is the belief that you won't be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes. Psychological safety at work is a shared expectation held by members of a team that teammates will not embarrass, reject, or punish them for sharing ideas, taking risks, or soliciting feedback. When workplace psychological safety is present, people feel comfortable bringing their full, authentic selves to work. It also encourages innovation, involvement, learning, and contribution. A psychologically safe workplace has 4 stages that institutions must build upon. It starts similar to Maslow's hierarchy of needs with the feeling of belonging or inclusion safety. Once that is established, we can move on to learner safety, where individuals can ask questions and grow, contributor safety, where individuals can make a difference in the team, and challenger safety, where individuals can improve the status quo and contribute new ideas. So how can we create psychological safety in the workplace? Some suggestions include creating safety and trust to receive candid feedback. We can do this by getting to know each other, understanding colleagues as individuals. Next, strike a balance and encourage positive feedback as well. Start small and don't miss opportunities to acknowledge and appreciate one another. Praising effort rather than ability has been shown to raise resilience. Also, include personal accountability. Feedback culture starts with each of us. We are all trying to get better at giving, receiving, and asking for feedback, as well as closing the loop and following up on items discussed. In short, creating a friendly environment allows residents to grow. Part and parcel of this is a growth mindset from all members of the team. A growth mindset is the belief that effort and deliberate practice can improve one's abilities. While it is easy to say, I can't do it, or I don't know how to, we have to remember that we are all learning and we will achieve our goals. For residents, we recommend identifying case-specific learning goals each day. Today, I'm going to learn about this or that, such and such, and reflecting on our own mindset. For teachers, we recommend reframing feedback as coaching or mentorship to foster growth and prepare trainees for independent practice. Investing in assessment tools to assist in identifying residents' needs and tracking learning progress can also allow for progression through various milestones. An example where feedback is normalized is in athletics. An example from the Harvard Business Review interviewed an Olympic volleyball player. She noted that for 8 years, every ball I've touched or didn't touch, every decision I made on the court, every hour I showed up in the gym has been observed and statted. Coaches for sports are able to observe real-time plays and provide on-the-spot feedback with the shared goal of individual and team performance. Likewise, in medicine, we are all coaches for one another. Finally, what can we do here to promote a culture of feedback? We can ensure that mutual respect is a priority while establishing a culture of trust and psychological safety. We hope to create formal feedback and coaching training, and additionally, consistency is key in incorporating feedback and follow-up. We appreciate everyone's efforts in shaping the best possible physicians and providing excellent patient care. With that, I have included a list of references, and I wanted to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to my presentation today, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback during the Q&A and panel portions of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Razak. And the next speaker is Dr. Zalim Balkizov, who is a leader in medical education in Russia, serving as director of the Institute for Development of Medical Educators and professor of medical education at the Russian National Research Medical University after Pirogov. He is the general secretary of the Russian Society of Medical Educators, which he co-founded in 2022. Dr. Balkizov, the floor is yours.
My dear friends, it is a great pleasure and privilege to be part of this second Dr. Aram Chobanyani National Conference on Postgraduate Medical Education and Continuing Professional Development. I have a long history of cooperation with the Republic of Armenia in CME and CPD, and I want to thank Dr. Gevorgy Jan for his continuing friendship and support. My name is Zalim Balkizov, and I'm General Secretary of the Russian Society of Medical Educators, but I also have some other responsibilities. However, everything is about medical education. I want to talk to you about the development of medical education, including traditions, innovations, and prospects. We are all familiar to the traditional teaching methods like lectures and seminars, classical bedside teaching, and practical exercises. And advantages of these traditional methods are personal interaction with teachers, which is very important part, direct link to the clinical practice, and probably the most important is emotional experience of interacting with real patients. But today, medical education faces a number of challenges for which we will have to find solutions. And one of them is that cognitive characteristics of the new generations of students are changing. They are not the same as us as teachers. There is increasing demands for patient safety and ethical training, which is driven simulation. And of course, there are other technologies, information technologies, which allow students to learn faster and more efficiently. And today, most of the technologies which we are familiar to are already ineffective, like lectures in large flow of students, learning by observation. We just cannot do it. Training on patients, without prior simulation training is also ineffective and also dangerous for the patients, and so on. And also, in our reality, we have patient expectations, we have educated patients, we have in somehow knowledgeable patients. There is a growing amount of information in medicine. There are technologies like telemedicine, like Internet of Medical Things, wearable devices, which are not fantastic anymore. It is common. And almost every diabetic patient in Russia, they have wearable devices, CGM sensors, which sends data, incredible amount of data, by the way, to endocrinologists, and they have to somehow deal with all this data and find solutions how to help the patient. And of course, another challenge and another part of reality we are living in is artificial intelligence and big data. Generation perception of technologies also need to be considered. We understand that generations which are younger than us perceive technologies in a different way. It is integrated in their life. They grow up with these technologies. And if you look back in 10 years or 20 years, the life changed dramatically. It is incredible what we have today in technology. Imagine you just forgot your smartphone at home. That would be a nightmare. Why it is so important to know? I perceive learner as a patient, and first-year students are attending medical school as a patient with preliminary diagnosis of ignorance and incompetence. We are running diagnostic tests, pretesting, surveys, then we are starting treatment, which is lectures, practical trainer, internship, and other technologies. Then we are conducting formative assessment, which is evaluation of our treatment. And then after treatment is complete, after 6 years or whatever is in your program, we are running summative assessment, and we understand that not everybody will survive by the end of 6 years. And then we are discharging them from the university, which is hospital for students, with certificate or other kind of diploma. Because of all of that, do we want it or not, we have to understand there is innovations in medical education, and electronic technologies and simulation are commodity nowadays, but there is two emerging technologies which are artificial intelligence and immersive technologies, and they are connected to the whole medical education. Artificial intelligence is a set of algorithms and models that mimic and, in some cases, augment human cognitive functions. And there is a lot of publications about artificial intelligence in medical education, and VIMI Guide number 84, which is a scope and review of artificial intelligence of medical education, was published a couple of years ago. And you may see that growing number of publications for recent years, and publications are all, and this growing number of publications are covering the whole continuum of medical education, including recruitment, including teaching and instruction, assessment, clinical reasoning, automation of cases, knowledge, attitudes about AI itself. And of course, there is tools which are already in use on the market in the medical education, which are helping us both in simulation and other parts of our job. First is designing medical simulation scenarios with AI, and these kind of tools utilize AI agents to design complex adaptive simulations that adjust to learners' performance in real time, and this automation reduces the time and expertise required to develop effective training models, and it allows us for more personalized and efficient learning experiences. AI-powered virtual patients are changing clinical education by providing realistic interactive scenarios for learners. For instance, Sophie, an AI-based standardized patient, offers training in serious illness communication and improving clinical skills in empathy and patient engagements. And these systems adapt learners' responses, providing personalized feedback and enhancing the development of soft skills, which is essential. Another technology which I use every day is AI-assisted assessment. As a professor of faculty development department, I'm teaching my students, which are faculty members, on assessment. And during the course, they have to write specific number of questions, which are all clinical vignettes. So I use AI, pre-trained AI, of course, to evaluate their projects of MCQs, and I get very good detailed feedback for the whole task, and also recommendations what to change in every MCQ, which is very good feedback for my students. And also I can generate revised MCQ assignment, and which is optimized both in this case both in number of words and also in terms of clearance. The model was trained on NBME criteria of MCQ, and I can also upload a file, an Excel file with a number of MCQ, and it will give me again very detailed analysis and feedback on all of them, including recommendations and highlighting what has been corrected. Important tool which helps me a lot and make my time much more effective. I can provide personalized feedback to each of the student, which I normally have too much. Another tool is the text-to-image generative AI, which allow you to draw your own picture to be used in lectures. And what is important, it is not copyrighted, and you can use any prompt, including specific style of the picture or specific painter you know about, and you will get perfect pictures as illustrations for your lectures, something like this, which I used to explain the abdominal training simulator. And even this picture was not generated from the first try, because the GPT found it to be unethical to draw a patient, a children patient. Also, you can use GPT AI to generate clinical pictures. And again, this is not just not copyrighted, but also you are not using real patient pictures and their personal data. All these pictures are generated, and it is not a real patient, but it resembles symptoms which you want to illustrate in your lectures. these realistic photos are also AI generated, and you can use AI not just to hide patient data, but also for the cases for which you don't have specific illustrations, but you want to teach it and train students. But of course, you have to experiment with the prompts to get proper signs of diseases and try different prompts. And you see, for the same disease, I used a lot of adjustments to get something which will satisfy me. It is also used in radiology, but not just for diagnosing. The database of X-ray used to generate a new image with specific pathology, again, doesn't belong to any patient, but at the same time, you have clear pathology on the picture, and it can be used for training students or radiologists. What we are also doing is reviewing articles. I'm editing a journal on medical education, and of course, reviewing articles is not an easy job, and it takes a lot of time. So we trained GPT to review articles for us, and it gives us very nice reviews, including recommendations how to improve the paper, and sometimes even recommendation on what other practical uses you can take from specific results you are getting from the research. But what is even more difficult is to write review when you are refusing the paper, and this also can be done with artificial intelligence. Doesn't mean I wanted to refuse this paper, but you see, not every review is positive, and it also gives you very detailed feedback on why this paper is not acceptable for the journal. Another usage of AI in medical education is automatic data analysis, which is also important in simulation. Let's say in surgery, in simulation of laparoscopic surgery, there is a papers which is about research on AI in motion detection and detection of specific instrument and anatomical structures, relations, which can predict skills. And this technology is also repeatable. The whole process is very well described in the paper, and I believe that you can do something similar to this. Another research which utilizes AI, and unlikely you can do it without it, is based on evaluation of surgical skills using wearable sensors. And these sensors are taking myography, and you after analysis using AI, scientists found that 3 points are important to assess surgical skills. Another area in simulation is immersive technologies, which is growing rapidly, and based on the Future Care Capital publications, the market of the augmented reality technologies in healthcare will reach 25 billion by 20. We are using virtual reality and immersive technologies to simulate not just virtual patient, but team training in the virtual environment. And you see that these students are working together in the ambulance, and they can be distributed all over the world. They don't have to be in the same room, but they will appear in the same virtual environment, which can be ambulance, or it can be ICU, to train them for team working, for soft skills, and also, of course, also clinical skills. And as a team, they have to save the virtual patient in the ICU. Another part of virtual reality and extended reality is technologies which allows you to interact in virtual reality by your bare hands with the patient. And this was developed by my team. And as a surgeon, I was not satisfied with the training where I cannot present to my student any patient with acute abdomen. So we designed a simulator which can resample that signs of acute abdomen in virtual reality, but again, you are using your bare hands to interact with this patient, and you will see patient reaction and also what is beneath your hand. Also very interesting technology, and we are working on involving this. Getting back to real life, recently the simulation center was opened in the National Institute of Health. It was founded by the traveling doctors and specifically was designed for BLS, ACLS, and ATLS courses. And for these courses, Armenia Brahadurian, who is founder of the traveling doctors, brings in coaches from all around the world, and I've seen how enthusiastic they are in training of doctors in Armenia.
Okay, so we're going to debate.
This is not just a room of dogs, but it is a live simulation where doctors work as teams
I think Dr. Zalim, he is online, so he can be able to answer a question after demonstration of this session, right?
I think video was paused because
Yes.
there is some other things, but we can stop here anyway.
Yes, I think this is a great presentation. I never saw that before about artificial intelligence and your group's work, so this is incredible, especially for MCQ's preparation and all other your simulation which you are starting doing. I think we will have a lot of questions based on that. So
thank you, Dr. Balkizev. Our next speakers are from the Department of Anesthesiology, Pain and Preoperative Medicine at the Children's National in Washington, D.C. Dr. Chaitanya Chalan is the Medical Director of Perioperative Services and a board-certified anesthesiologist specializing in pediatric anesthesiology. She completed her medical training at New York Medical College, followed by residency in anesthesiology and a fellowship in pediatric anesthesiology. Dr. Pooja Gupta is a board-certified anesthesiologist specializing in pediatric anesthesiology. Dr. Gupta completed her fellowship in pediatric anesthesiology at the Cleveland Clinic Foundation in 2020, following a residency in anesthesiology at St. Joseph's University Medical Center. Please start.
Hello and good morning. My name is Chaitanya Chawla and I'm here with Dr. Pooja Gupta from Children's National in DC. And we are here to discuss the use of apps in medical education. Today, we will talk about the evolution of technology in medical education, categories of applications, the benefits and limitations, and lastly, what is the future of these applications? We do not have any disclosures. So technology is moving fast, and it's making a big impact on medicine, especially in how we teach future doctors and how care is delivered. Since medicine is always evolving, medical education needs to keep up with the latest tools, trends, and breakthroughs. Today, we will take a look at some of the digital learning tools being used in medical training, exploring what's working well and what limitations may arise. We will also dive into how artificial intelligence is starting to change the game and think about how we can use tech in smart ways without losing the human touch that's so important in healthcare. Mobile apps are important for medical education and practice. They can be used for documentation, time management, and clinical decision-making. There are various benefits which we will go into in detail, but some highlights are that they are accessible anytime, anywhere, and they are cost-effective. COVID-19 accelerated the mobile learning technique, and institutions quickly needed to adapt to the needs of the community. 85% of healthcare professionals and students have smartphones, and 30 to 50% use medical apps. As medical educators, we need to adapt to the needs of our students and adjust the traditional learning setting. So before we start, it's important to get a handle on different teaching styles. Knowing how people learn and how that plays into teaching can really make a difference. The goal is to stay focused on what you're trying to teach and keep students engaged. There are visual learners, and they learn best through seeing, such as diagrams, charts, and images. There are auditory learners who learn best through listening, such as lectures, discussions. So listening to podcasts, audiobooks, or videos to reinforce that knowledge. There are kinesthetic learners, where they learn best through doing, such as hands-on activities and experiments. Examples include playing games or doing puzzles as part of the learning process. And lastly, reading and writing learners, where they learn best through textbooks, notes, and essays. Since not everyone learns the same way, many teachers mix and match styles depending on the topic and setting.
We're going to dive more into examples of different apps in medical education, and we've specifically broken these up into 4 categories: learning and reference apps, simulation and virtual patient apps, communication and collaboration tools, as well as assessment and tracking tools. Mobile apps have really changed the game in medical education. They let you study anytime, anywhere, and make learning more flexible and tailored to your needs. Reference apps are especially handy. They give quick access to drug info, clinical guidelines, and evidence-based resources, which help both learners and professionals make fast, informed decisions. Let's take UpToDate, for example. It's a one-stop app for clinical guidelines, drug info, calculators, and even patient education tools. And there are tons of other apps out there. I've pictured here Medscape, but these apps are great for deep dives, and others are perfect for quick lookup, depending on what you need in the moment. A lot of these apps for learning and reference are just a modern take on traditional study tools with added flexibility and personalization. Let's take flashcards, for example. Students have used them forever, making their own or even buying commercially available sets like Netter's Anatomy flashcards pictured here. Now you have apps like Anki, which take this to another level. You can download pre-made decks, make your own, and even add images, audio, or video to help reinforce concepts. Plus, since it's all digital, you've got your study tools with you wherever you go. So now moving into simulation in virtual patients. This video is an example of an app called Airway X. This specific video shows a tutorial of an intubation with a flexible scope. Simulation and virtual patient-based apps like this one help both new and experienced clinicians sharpen their skills, make clinical decisions, and practice procedures. In Airway X, you work through realistic airway scenarios based on real cases. You can monitor vitals and sedation levels, use virtual endoscopic tools that behave like the real thing, and even earn CME credits. The app scores you on things like precision, speed, tissue damage, and decision-making. And the virtual patients respond in real time with changes in bleeding, breathing, and secretions. Apps like this now cover almost every area of medical education, from trauma response to procedural skills to diagnosis. Specifically with these types of apps, there's the gamification, and this enhances engagement, motivation, and learning outcomes, both for new learners and experienced practitioners. So this is another app that's a simulation-based app called ANSO, which stands for Anesthesia Sono Anatomy. What it provides is ultrasound images showing sonoanatomy with overlays that highlight specific anatomy seen on ultrasound. So for example, here you can see needle path, then you can click on another button and you can look at local anesthetic spread. And then these further images show you relevant surrounding anatomy and vascular structures. For this specific app, the innervation images can also help display cutaneous, motor, osseous, and visceral innervation, landmark pattern sketches to simplify patterns of recognition of major sonoanatomy landmarks. They even have loops displaying dynamic sonoanatomy, such as seen with cardiac and lung imaging, and also practical notes and scanning tips. As with all of these simulation and virtual patient-based apps, it provides a useful tool for both learning and refreshing of clinical skills. So here's an example of a trauma-based virtual patient app called PD Crisis. Here you can see a list of all of the crisis situations that the app can help with. Let's take a bit of a closer look at the functionality of the app through the bradycardia tab. So first, it shows you diagnostic parameters. Next, for treatment, it asks you to select between unstable and stable with parameters for helping you determine which category your patient fits into. So let's just say our patient is unstable. Here, it continues to show you the treatment algorithm for an unstable bradycardic patient. These final 3 tabs show drug dosing, instructions for pacing, and other tips and pointers for crisis management. Moving on to collaboration and communication tools. So we're all used to tools like Zoom, Slack, and Microsoft Teams, especially after COVID-19 pushed us to use them daily for everything from classes to clinical work. These platforms proved really valuable in medical education, supporting group projects, problem-based learning, and even telemedicine. The article pictured here clarified 2 important terms, telemedicine versus telehealth. Telemedicine usually means clinical services delivered remotely, whether in real time or not, whereas telehealth is broader. It includes things like provider training, administrative work, and continuing education. The pandemic highlighted some major benefits, such as easier access to care, fewer geographic barriers, less strain on hospitals, and reduced exposure to infections. But it also raised some valid concerns, like whether virtual patient care can fully replace the in-person experience. For now, the consensus seems that these tools work best as an adjunct to traditional care and education, not as a full replacement. Still, they've proven incredibly useful for collaboration, whether you're working on a case study or coordinating patient care across a team. So finally, we're getting into assessment and tracking tools. An assessment is more than just grades. It's feedback for growth that can be helpful no matter the level of learner. Tools like ExamSoft, Moodle, or TrueLearn, to name a few, help educators design assessments that align with tracking goals, learning goals, and help students track their own progress. ExamSoft specifically offers detailed performance analytics that allow faculty to break down how students are doing by topic or competency. It's useful for identifying knowledge gaps and even for preparing for board exams. Moodle is a flexible learning management system that can help track participation and engagement for both in-person and online courses. TrueLearn is more tailored for board prep. It offers question banks with performance tracking, spaced repetition, and peer benchmarks. These tools support data-driven education, where students and faculty can use real-time feedback to improve learning outcomes. They help to make remediation and curriculum adjustments more targeted and efficient. They also promote self-directed learning by helping learners understand where to focus and how they are progressing.
So what are the benefits of these apps? Number one, learn at your own pace. Students can slow down for tough topics or speed through the easy ones. It's all about personalizing learning to fit different styles and needs. Number two, some platforms are interactive. They have quizzes, flashcards, 3D models, and simulations, which keep learners engaged. Gamification, like earning badges, makes it even more motivating. Some software offers smarter clinical decisions. Tools like UpToDate, Epocrates, and MD Calc give real-time info, helping students and professionals make better evidence-based decisions on the spot. Some learners need to see it and then learn it. And visual apps for anatomy and surgery boost understanding with detailed images and videos that go beyond the textbook. And lastly, some apps help track and improve with data insight. Many apps monitor progress and flag areas where students are struggling, so teachers can step in with support when it's needed most. What are the downsides of these apps? Number one, privacy and ethics. Keeping patient and student data safe is a must. Apps need strong security. AI is not perfect. Biases and errors can sneak in, especially in diagnosis or treatment. Reliable, accurate data is key for learning and decision-making. We need clear rules around the ethical use of AI, like accountability and avoiding misuse. Number two, tech limitations. A solid internet connection isn't always available everywhere. Some apps drain phone storage and battery fast. Small screens make it tough to study complex info. Scaling AI across big institutions can be pricey and complicated. And number three, human skills are at risk. Leaning too much on AI could hurt critical thinking and communication. Tech might reduce valuable face-to-face learning time. And it's not always easy to measure how effective AI is in medical training. So in March 2023, ChatGPT passed the USMLE 1, 2 CK, and 3 at 60% accuracy. What did medical educators think about this? Many medical schools are introducing AI-related courses and workshops to provide students with foundational knowledge about AI and its applications in medicine. These courses cover topics such as AI algorithms, data analysis, and the ethical implications of AI in healthcare. Some schools are even offering specialized tracks in AI for medical students. So how can we integrate AI into clinical workflow for our residents and physicians? Number one, smarter diagnosis. AI can scan medical images like CTs or MRIs and catch things the human eye might miss, faster and more accurately. Number two, real-time support. During diagnosis, AI can suggest possible conditions and treatments based on patient info, like a super smart assistant. Number three, personalized treatment plans. It helps doctors customize care to each patient, making treatments more effective. Predicting patient responses. AI can crunch the data to see how a patient might react to a treatment before it even starts. There's also less admin work. AI can take over tasks like billing and documentation, so healthcare pros can focus more on patient care. And lastly, better resource planning. It can predict busy times and staffing needs to help hospitals run more smoothly. Medical tech is changing fast, and it's transforming how we train doctors and health educators. Tools like advanced diagnostics, simulations, telemedicine, and AI are now part of the learning experience, helping students build the skills they need for modern, patient-centered care. As tech keeps evolving, it is super important for medical students to keep up. By bringing new innovations into the classroom, we're setting up future healthcare pros for success and ultimately helping improve patient outcomes. And the WHO points out strong health education isn't just nice to have, it's essential for promoting healthier lives and smarter care. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gupta and Dr. Challa. And now we can start the question answer session. So in the very beginning, there was a question on what kind of or which of these methodologies we could use for nursing education. I think this is a very important question for Armenia. Are there any specific opinions on this?
Lalim, do you want to share your experiences with the nursing education, simulation for nursing, Russian experience?
Well, honestly, our education in nursing focused on clinical skills, on practical skills mostly, and we are using either part-task trainers or full body mannequins, and I don't think we are very advanced in this specific area of nursing education.
Thank you. And as you might know, that the American University of Armenia, they have a new program for nursing, and they are doing advanced nursing program. In the future, if you will be visiting Armenia, please stop by AUA, and you can discuss a future collaboration, because maybe even the simple CPR mannequins and all other stuff which are using on for a medical student education might be useful in this case for them too.
Thank you very much. Dr. Babloyan is raising his hand. Go ahead, please.
Ես մի փոքր ավելի ընդլայնեմ հարցի գաղափարը։ Մենք բժիշկների հետբուհական կրթության մեջ վաղուց արդեն գնացել ենք այն ճանապարհով, որ գնում ենք մասնագիտացման, հիմա գնում ենք ել ավելի կատարելագործելու այդ մոտեցումները։ Քույրականում առայժմս Հայաստանում հարցը բավականին վատ վիճակում է, որովհետև բուժքույրերը, որ ավարտում են, դեռ ոչ բոլոր ուղղություններով կան մասնագիտացումներ, այսինքն բուժքույրերը գնում են աշխատում են եւ իրենց աշխատանքի ընթացքում են սովորում այն ինչ որ իրենք պետք է իրականացնեն այդ հիվանդանոցներում։ Միևնույն ժամանակ իհարկե այս շարունակական մասնագիտական զարգացումը ինքը վերաբերում է ոչ միայն բժիշկներին, այլև բուժքույրերին, եւ այստեղ մենք շատ անելիքներ ունենք, այնպես որ եւ Վարդուհին շատ լավ գիտի, որ այս հարցերը առաջնահերթ են մեր բոլորի համար, եւ անշուշտ խնդիրը հենց դա է պատճառը, որ Շուշանիկը Դավթյան այդ հարցը բարձրացրել է եւ հավանական է, որ մենք հետագայում առանձին մի կոնֆերանս անցկացնենք բուժքույրական մասնագիտական զարգացման եւ շարունակական մասնագիտական զարգացման վերաբերյալ։
Շնորհակալություն դոկտոր Բաբլոյան, մեր բակալավրի աստիճանում քույրական գործի փորձում ենք այս նորարարական մոտեցումները ընդգրկել ծրագրի մեջ։ The next question is from Torek Simonyan. She would like to know if using generative AI, whether it interferes with developing critical thinking among the students. So what are the opinions of our speakers? Thank you.
I think AI component of this conversation might be, we need to isolate because our speakers talk more about the using AI in a teaching technology, but AI in medicine in general, this is a totally different topic, and we might need to have another conference devoted to that. But as you can see, Vartui and the AI helping in many specialties, especially image-based specialties. And I do think that the future, my personal understanding is that the future of the recognizing imaging, it can be radiology images, it can be pathology images, it will be under the AI. And I'm sure that the AI will be helping to monitoring the images and give the best possible answers. And eventually the doctors need to go and look and say, is it this image or this diagnosis or not? But I can say that personally, AI help you in everyday practice, help you to write letters, but it's obviously if you will be using AI more than you need it, you will be forget to write more. So I don't think that AI eventually will think to the more developed need to use AI in a normal dosages, because otherwise it will be totally cover our everyday's communication at least. This is my personal opinion. But let's concentrate on teaching methodology and the questions. I will appreciate if the questions will come about the teaching, problem-based learning, all other technologies which and the methods which our presenters show today.
Yes, but presenters also showed that AI can be used in teaching.
Yeah, about the teaching, yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, I can add a few words. First, I demonstrated some features of AI which we are using. It is not only for teaching, but also it is a tools for teachers, both in scientific approaches to medical education, and it is very convenient to make literature review, drafts of literature review. There are many tools, not just general artificial intelligence tools like ChatGPT, but also specific tools to find literature based on not just on links, but also on the content, and make some short reviews. Right now, during this presentation, I'm making review of medical education in India, because it is one of particular questions we will discuss next week on the conference in Moscow. We have more than 30,000 Indian students, and regulation is changing. So I had an opportunity in 2 minutes get deep into all the whole process of medical education in India, and also recognition of international diplomas, and so on. So it is a very good tool for a teacher, not only for teaching, but also for other duties.
Thank you, Zalim. After your conference, please share your findings about Indian students, because in Yerevan we also have many Indian students. It might be useful for our universities. Your findings.
Thank you. I will. I'm in Kazakhstan right now. We have conference here in Karaganda tomorrow. Yesterday, I was in Uzbekistan, in Tashkent, on another conference, and I know these issues are the same across all former SSR countries, because all of us have a lot of Indian students, and starting 28, regulation of recognition of diplomas is changing. So it is important issue for us.
Thank you.
Thank you. There is also a question whether generative AI has been used in Armenia and what is the feedback, at least in teaching. So let's focus on teaching.
Artu, can you share your experience? I think we don't have among the panelists the people who can represent that part. How you are using AI, the AVA? Please share your experience.
Okay. I can share my own experience. So I understand that this is a challenge that all of us are facing, and it's really interesting how to turn this challenge into an opportunity. What I personally do, there are parts in the course that I give permission to the students to use generative AI, but they have to reference it. They have to specify that for this information they have used, because, for example, they're developing proposal for program evaluation, but the program can be an imaginative, close to a reality, but an imaginative. So they can use AI to come up with a potential public health program that they can develop how to evaluate its effectiveness. So this is one example. But of course, we have to recognize that it's in existence, and we need to find more and more how to use it, because the students are going to use it anyways, whether we want or not. And we need to have clear policies that define what is it and how to deal with it. When it comes, for example, to developing their specific evaluation methods, they cannot use AI. Even if they use a reference, they have to rely on their own learning.
I just wanted to add that we are working as a society, we are working on the Codex of Ethics in using AI in medical education, because we found some others, international publications, but they are focused only on policies, and there is no any guidelines what to do. They only say don't do this, don't do that. So we are working on more extensive guidelines, so policies, and also how to use and what you can do in medical education using AI. I will share once we'll publish this.
Thank you.
Rafi Abetisyan has a question.
Hi, thank you very much for all the talks. I'll say the question in English so all the panelists and speakers can understand. So one of the issues that is relevant to each point in each talk, AI, feedback, PBLD, is the cultural differences. And I would say this on personal experience as well as different references. Many of the studies that were mentioned, they have been done in certain cultural groups, let's say Western countries. And within even the Western countries, it's different from those who are born here or from those who have immigrated. I have had many students, trainees, fellows from different places. And if I do the same feedback, I'll just talk about feedback, for example, it's different from one cultural background to the other. And now Professor Zalim that was talking about the study that they're doing on Indian origin trainees may be totally different than the ones in Armenia or the ones in Europe or the ones in Africa. So, and again, example, giving a feedback in one culture, if you don't say you're the best person in the world, means you're the worst person in the world. And the other ones are more demanding on a positive or direct feedback than an indirect, the sandwich part or something. So any of the, or all of the speakers can comment on cultural differences.
Definitely, I can start. Thank you so much for this question. I think it's definitely very pertinent whenever we're discussing feedback. And even as I was putting together the talk, as you mentioned, a lot of the resources are sort of Western focused, and when I got a chance to experience the culture in Armenia, of course, that is very different too, in the way that people speak with each other and interact, and even the personal relationships that people have as you're fostering these residents. So I think that that's all very important to discuss. One thing that I had mentioned was kind of this concept of psychological safety, which is also kind of an interesting concept in itself, in that you're trying to create an atmosphere where people can make mistakes and people can ask for feedback and people can grow. And perhaps that is a little bit more Western as well. And maybe others can comment as well. But I think kind of creating that environment and asking learners to reflect on their own performance can kind of open the door and kind of give you a way to see where a student or a learner might be at. And that might transcend different cultures by kind of having more of an open dialogue.
Thank you. There is a question from Shushan Davtyan. How can we effectively balance student autonomy with structured guidance in project-based learning, especially in contexts where learners are unfamiliar with self-directed learning? This is about the cultural context or customs.
I will answer that question, and maybe Miriam will also join. And so for that question is so important for students to particularly be involved and learn what is like a PBL at the first place. So it's important before conducting any PBL sessions to have a specific training with the students to talk about how the education will look like. In that regard, also to talk with them about the different components of problem-based learning and specifically self-directed learning, and show to the students what is their role within the PBL sessions, and then their role is clear for them, because specifically students who come from a background where they are used to traditional lectures, they are expecting that the leader of the session will be teacher, tutor, but in the problem-based learning, the leader of the session is students themselves. They are the ones who are creating that knowledge. So I think understanding that difference between traditional and PBL sessions, that is something that students specifically from unfamiliar backgrounds, they need to learn and understand. So that can help in total to improve the sessions and have more meaningful conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Isahakian. There is a related comment from Charles Greenberg, who states there are medical schools that have traditional and problem-based learning tracks that compare students' board exam outcomes, and the PBL students do seem to score better. PBL teaching expands for this reason.
That's a really nice comment, and I will maybe share an experience that I heard from someone who did a like PBL when it was in 90s, because I don't know how familiar you are or no, but Maastricht University was among the first medical universities who adopted the PBL system, and when they adopted the PBL system, it was were not known a lot about the benefits of the PBL system at that time. But when the first medical students, and they were in comparison with other Dutch universities who were at that time not using a PBL system, and then initially they only measure for the knowledge, and sometimes it's like knowledge, measuring knowledge might also not indicate the benefit of the certain methods. And then they measured the knowledge. It was really similar towards different universities, including Belgian universities, but then they measured the skills and their involvement in clinical practice. It was like significantly different from other teaching methodologies. So that's a really nice remark about PBL, because it really prepares students who are ready to be integrated in medical world. It's a really nice methodology who really prepares not only like, hey, you know this skill or you know this knowledge, but you know how to use those in real life. And I think Miriam is also here. Maybe she can also give any thoughts and opinions about that.
Hi, thank you. And thank you, Anna, for the explanation. Can you please repeat the question, because I was connecting while you were talking? Sorry. So we had like two questions. One of them is a remark that there are medical schools that have traditional and PBL learning tracks that compare students' board exam outcomes. PBL students do seem to score better. PBL teaching expands for this reason. That is the first question. And the next question is, how can we effectively balance student autonomy with structured guidance in PBL, especially in contexts where learners are unfamiliar with self-directed learning? Yeah. So if I heard you correctly, you were also explaining that knowledge-wise, they're pretty much the same, but it's the other skills that the PBL students actually excel in, and it's more collaborative working or leadership skills and also self-regulated learning skills. And that's mainly because when problem-based learning is used, many students have to find their own way, and they have to write their own learning goals and what they want to learn out of this whole tutorial or the subject that they are learning. And that pushes them to think deeper, and it's not that they will be handed over stuff, but more that they have to think about what are we going to learn and how are we going to learn it and what is important here. So they also set the baseline. There are guidelines to show them where they're supposed to go, but it's actually them, the students, who have to figure it out. So in that sense, PBL has been doing very well, especially in medical education, where the field is broad and every student has to figure out their own interests and find where they want to go. And with regards to self-directed learning and self-regulated learning, actually one of the principles that we put at Maastricht University with regards to problem-based learning is self-directed learning. And that's mostly because students are the ones who go around seeking for feedback. They ask for what they want from the tutors, and they are the ones setting learning goals for themselves. So that puts them in a situation where they have to judge where they stand, what more do they need, and how they want to move forward. That's how we work with problem-based learning, at least at Maastricht University.
Thank you. I will read a couple of comments and then probably a concluding question. I think a very important question about resources. So Christina Chobanian, as a nurse, mentions that our nurses haven't been using AI at work. Anna Sargsyan mentions that medical students and residents have been using AI while working on certain assignments. And there is a comment from Anna Martirosyan that we're talking about students, but we have issues with faculty members and professors who are not very fluent using those technologies, AI in particularly, and they have been using traditional methodologies, and there might be resistance to using these more innovative approaches. And the question is from Anna Sargsyan is about where to find resources, because we talked about applications to use in medical education using virtual reality, sometimes to replace, working with specific mannequins. So how could we identify resources to help not only medical but nursing education in Armenia? Thank you. Anyone who would like to comment on this?
I just want to add, Vartuit, that it's very important to have a goal. For example, this conference gives a vision to many of our participants. And many of them will now try to find the resources. For example, during my last time in Armenia, I talked with a few friends, Jacqueline Karaslanyan, and she mentioned that there is some augmented reality resources for nursing education. And I shared this information with Shushan, with the Arab Care Nursing Education Center and AVA. And I'm sure that very soon these possibilities will be possible in this institution. So if you know what you want to find, you will be able to find. So the most important is the knowledge, where to go, what to find. And I'm sure that many of the institutions in Armenia now having this opportunity will be able to try to find it. We have our Zalim as a friend, and their organization working closely with the Armenian Ministry of Health, they have a possibility to bring the technology. So anybody who wants to be introduced to this organization after the conference, we can introduce. But as you know, if you know what you want to find, you will be able to find. So this is an eye-opening conference in this regard, and I do hope that many of our colleagues will be trying to contact us, and we will help to find the resources. Of course, it will be difficult with some institutions and hospitals, but in general, maybe in 5 years, we will have that resources in Armenia too.
So I would like to thank again our speakers for sharing with us their expertise and experience on innovative teaching methodologies in medical education. And I want to also thank our participants who raised interesting questions, making this a very dynamic conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one question now. Do you want to continue directly to the panel discussion and skip a break, or you want to have a 10 minutes break? It's based on our audience. If you put in a chat, we will see your preferences and we will go in that direction. We can go directly to the panel discussion and finalize the conference. Հարգելի գոլեգաներ, ուզում եմ հարցնեմ, եթե ցանկություն կա, մենք կարող ենք ուղիղ գնալ panel discussion-ի եւ առանց coffee break-ի, հա, եւ վերջացնենք կոնֆերանսը։ Կարծում եմ տենց էլ անենք, որովհետեւ շատ պատասխան չստացանք, բայց Dr. Tekian, please go ahead and start the panel discussion, and I want to ask all the panelists who presented today turn on the video cameras, so we will be seeing who is answering, and Dr. Tekian will be going through that discussion.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to appreciate all the speakers who talked about various teaching methods, and this was very informative, each one elaborating about one aspect, one method of teaching. The important thing is the, let's say, the implementation of these methods and challenges probably that you face in your own settings. My first question will be, I mean, a lot of you are knowledgeable about these methods, but what are the challenges that you face when you want to implement in your own settings, whether it is at a university or in a hospital? What type of challenges do you face? I know that there are challenges because I visit annually Armenia, teach at AUA, and at AUA we have students who are from, let's say, from Yerevan State Medical University and other places who share about their experiences, the challenges, particularly when they are very excited and motivated to implement them, they face challenges. So the participants or the speakers may respond to the current challenges. Basically, challenges in implementing these innovative teaching methods.
May I start?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Salim.
So, thank you. I'm giving faculty development courses, and I think the main challenge is resistance from the faculty, and especially if you have only one teacher from the whole department going through the course, he gets back to the department and that's it. They cannot implement. So one challenge is resistance from the faculty member, and another one is leadership, because if leadership of the medical school and department, they are not involved in these changes, nothing happens. Because I have an experience in the same medical university. I think I already trained more than 300 teachers in assessment, and very few of them implemented it in their practice, including MCQ as clinical units and OSCE stations. And we only succeed to implement it when we developed national level license exam, and it was supported by the Ministry of Health, and it became essential part of the medical education. Now everybody use OSCE, do they want or not? But development of their own OSCEs or their own MCQ, it is still a problem. So it is conservatism and resistance from faculty member. That is the major challenge we face here.
So Zali, what will be your recommendations? Because I absolutely share both the participation component and let's say the resistance component and the role of the leadership. So what would be your recommendations?
Well, I don't have story of success yet.
Comment on that.
People who are, let's say, underground and they know the situation, because this is really something that we are facing. Our students or younger faculty, they are very motivated, but there are huge challenges when it comes to implementation. I mean, people, it's very easy to go to their traditional way of teaching, not much preparation. And then usually one of the excuses is that they are very busy and they don't have time to attend any of these training sessions. And the payments are so little. Why do they have to make an extra effort to attend? And there is not appreciation. It is long, that whole, let's say, reasoning. It applies in many places. It's not different in Armenia. However, something has to change. And also, I will add concerning the leadership, to hold people accountable, that with all these challenges, it is our obligation to provide quality education and training. We want, all of us, we want better patient care, education, but how you can hold accountable people that it's no more what you used to do in the past. Times are changing. We need to do a better job. So I don't know. I don't have also the answer. I just have recommendations, but I have not yet succeeded in changing that environment, the context. So maybe Dr. Babloyan has some good recommendations for us.
Իհարկե զարմանալի չէր, որ դոկտոր Բալկիզովը ցանկացավ իրեն կարծիքը հայտնի, որովհետև իսկապես մենք բոլորս հետ սովետական երկրները այսպես մի անցումային ժամանակահատված ենք ապրում, եւ այդ անցումային ժամանակահատվածը դեռ չի ավարտվել։ Ես ուղղակի պատմականորեն ուզում եմ ասեմ, որ տեսեք, մենք այստեղ խոսեցինք Վարի օֆի մասին, հայօգնության ֆոնդի մասին, ու ուղղակի ուզում եմ ասեմ, որ առաջի քայլերը մեզ ուսուցում տվեցին, երբ որ երկրաշարժից հետո 90 բժիշկներ Միացյալ Նահանգներ ուղարկվեցին, որպեսզի այնտեղ վերապատրաստվեն։ Հետո Էդգար Սիպյանը խնդիր դրեց, որ նրանք, ովքեր որ գնացել վերապատրաստվել են, իրենք չեն վերապատրաստվել իրենց համար, նրանք պետք է իրենց գիտելիքները կիսվեն մյուսների հետ։ Եվ դոկտոր Բալկիզովը լավ է հիշում, սովետական ժամանակահատվածում, այո, մենք ունեինք 5 տարին մեկ, որ պետք է գնայինք վերապատրաստվելու, բայց մեզ տանում էին 7 շաբաթ նստացնում էին սենյակներում, դասախոսությունները կարդում, գործից կտրում եւ ինչ խոսք, որ այդտեղ փոփոխությունների կարիք ունենք։ Ասեմ ձեզ, ինձ բախտ վիճակվեց, ի վերջո այն ինչ որ Էդգար Հոսեփյանը, այն ինչ որ մեր այսպես ուսուցիչները Արամը Չոբանյան եւ Ռաֆին Հովանեսյան մեզ ջանք դրեցին, սովորացրեցին եւ այդ առումով ինչպես որ ասում էր դոկտոր Բալկիզովը ստիպված հրաման եղավ, ես էլ ստիպված օրենքի նախագիծ հեղինակեցի եւ 2014 թվականին օրենքը դրեցի շրջանառության մեջ, բայց օրենքով ոչ թե գրեցինք continuing medical education, որովհետև բժշկական կրթությունը մեզ մոտ այդ տերմինը, կրթության տերմինը հին տպավորություններով էր, այսպես ասած, ասոցացվում, տանեն նստացնեն դասարանում, դասախոսություն կարդան, եւ ինչպես որ դուք ձեր սլայդում ցույց տվեցիք, կեսը քնում են, կեսը ուրիշ գործով են զբաղված, եւ դրա համար մենք կոչեցինք շարունակական մասնագիտական զարգացում։ Այսինքն, այստեղ արդեն մենք ուզեցինք փոխենք մոտեցումները։ Եվ այո, հիմա բոլորս լծվել ենք այս գործին, որպեսզի իսկապես մենք կարողանանք շարունակական մասնագիտական զարգացումը ապահովենք, կիրառելով այն բոլոր մոտեցումները, որոնք որ դուք այսօր մեզ ներկայացրեցիք։ Եվ այսօրվա մեր այս քննարկումը, այս կոնֆերանսը տալու է հնարավորություն նորից այն մարդկանց, ովքեր որ այս գործընթացի մեջ են, նոր մոտեցումները զարգացնեն եւ հաղորդեն մյուսներին։ Իմ պատկերացումը սա է։
This is a very important, first of all, historical background, the perspective and current situation. However, still let's say, my focus is how to hold people accountable, because there are a lot of activities going on. Those who participate training programs, they are, this is not a large number, they are very happy, they are satisfied. When they go back to introduce these changes, there is resistance because not people want to change what they wanted to do, and there is no accountability. Nobody is out there saying that we expect something different from you, and if you do not, let's say, deliver and use current methodologies, then something has to happen. I don't know that's how to hold them accountable. There has to be a very strong reward system for those who are doing. But how could that, the climate, the educational climate, the, let's say, the support system could be introduced so that people willingly are doing and implementing these innovative changes?
Well, I can speak on that behalf. I do agree that change is difficult to implement for all of us, and it becomes even more difficult as we age. My challenge on top of that implementing change is the cultural differences, as I mentioned, because it's different from one country to the other. But coming back to answer, what is the answer to it? I think it lies down to the regulatory issues for each country. And I don't want to bring only Armenia as an example, but we are discussing that. The regulatory comes, okay, are you ready for change or not? And if not, as you just mentioned, the newer generation are a bit more open because they are seeing the new methods and they would like to experiment it. But unfortunately, because they do not have the power to stay and change it, they tend to leave towards those places who are more receptible to the younger, new thoughts, new methods. So it comes down to the regulatory saying either you change for the more experienced older guys like me, or there are younger ones who we will protect and let them replace. So it comes to a country's regulations.
Yes, and what you are referring, Rafi, is basically touches on the leadership. I mean, and that's very important. And how to convince and educate leaders, those who are still very traditional, that it's time to pass and trust the younger generation to take leadership roles and effect. Unfortunately, not only in Armenia, but many countries that I visit, seniority counts so much that seniority, it's not competence. And so a lot of people hold the positions because they are senior, they are politically well connected, but they are not the right people. How to change culturally that whole situation, I don't have yet an answer. I mean, in
Dr. Tekian, I think one of the things that it's working very well, it's making a critical mass. And
Yes.
doing these conferences, we are bringing more knowledge to the younger generation. And divided all your steps by your road on the steps. I just want to bring one small example. 2008, the Boston University Medical School, they're using UpToDate in their hospitals. At that time, we don't even have a planchets, we don't have a phone so much. And I remember during one of the rounds, they are bringing a big station of the computer, and residents working and checking updates. I saw that. I bring that knowledge to Armenia. I introduced to the National Medical Library to Armenia that there is this database UpToDate called. We find out the possibility to buy this UpToDate for a national library. The people start reading, understanding. Now they're demanding their hospitals, and the hospitals now taking this subscription. So I think, first of all, you need to make a critical mass of the people who really wants to make a change. After you, among of these people, you need to find the right leadership with all the political possibilities to them to be a leader in higher institutions. It might be on a ministerial level, it might be on a university level, and use the other members of the faculty to be a part of this change and bring all these people. It's a long way to go, but I believe that we already went through this road. We have, with Dr. Atman's help, we have advisory council for Yerevan State Medical University in the past. They help us with the curriculum. So we need to do every day. We cannot say, oh, we don't have a result, we need to stop. No, we need to do, and we need to make this critical mass, and that's why we are having this conference. And you can see we have 500 people from the beginning until now. It means the people are interested. We need to find the right leaders and put them in right positions to make these big changes.
Absolutely agree about that creation of the critical mass. Definitely can work. There are other questions. First, let's go to Anna and then to Zali.
Okay, maybe I will give some suggestion about how we can make people more enthusiastic about implementing some novel teaching methodologies. I think like in terms of PBL, it's known fact that you need to find people who are enthusiastic. Then you want to implement a PBL. So if you are within your institution trying to really implement PBL and you have all the technical and logistics things are done there, the other thing that it's really important for you to find people who are enthusiastic about PBL.
PBL. So if you identify them, it will be easier to implement the whole process. The second aspect of implementing something novel is to understand why people resist. Sometimes they resist because they simply don't know how they're going to do. So like, it's not that we should be really critical about people who refuse, but more to try and understand what are their motives, why they resist, and then try to support them as much as we can. Because also sometimes just showing how it look like can really motivate them, because at the end of the day, every teacher, lecturer, their aim is to teach, and sometimes they're also tired of teaching these traditional lectures and doing these things and not receiving any feedback from students. But they also don't know how to change that, or they're afraid that maybe they will lose their independence there, or they will lose their role within the lecture. But then if you will show them just once and then they go and they see how enthusiastic are students there, and they start answering, so it also can motivate them to, hey, maybe I can also like implement this within my class. So let's find enthusiastic people so they can implement, the others might see and get inspired as well. The other thing also, like, to think about a lot of, specifically in medical education, clinical educators, they are physicians, they are nurses, they are other professionals, but it's not their first role is to be a teacher. So it's also important to support their teacher's identity, who they are as a teachers, how they see themselves as a teacher. So there are small aspects that can be improved in order to really implement those novel strategies within the educational settings.
I totally agree, Anna. Zalim, please go ahead.
Thank you. I said earlier that I don't have success stories, but I have few. Well, first, it is implementation of simulation, first of all, because there is huge resistance. Clinicians and faculty members, especially with, let's say, big experience, their impression about simulation and simulators is like a toy, and only clinical bedside teaching is the only golden standard you can use. But when I'm given workshops on simulation, first of all, I'm giving them, I don't present simulator. I give them specific scenario how they can use this in their own curriculum. And I address specific disappointments. Let's say I demonstrated in my lecture today that simulator I designed for abdominal examination, because it was one of disappointments in my department. My curriculum of surgery, I'm a surgeon, and my curriculum includes only acute abdomen for students, for undergraduate students. And even having 210 beds in surgical beds only, I cannot provide my students with experience on palpation of patients with acute abdomen. It is unethical. It is, first of all, second, it is painful for students, and painful for patients. And also, I have within the 200 beds, I have at one moment, I will have 100+ students. Again, it's impossible. So today I gave workshop here in Kazakhstan, how to train using VR students group. And again, and another challenge is, normally in the simulation lab, you have 1 or 2 simulators and you have 10 students. So you have to address this issue as well. And whole my auditorium was 40+, 60+ years faculty members. And of course, they was pessimistic at the beginning, but they was very enthusiastic after we played the whole session with students, and I gave them examples how they attract all the students to the simulation. And there was no seat warmers, everybody attending. So there is solutions which makes their life easier. Another example I also demonstrated today, I insist in accountability. And because especially clinicians, they are very much distracted. Their role as a doctor, they consider their role as a doctor is much more important than their role as a teacher, even if their main job is university. So that's why I insist that student is a patient. You have to be as accountable with the student as you are with the patient. And in patient, we change in technology rapidly. We don't treat patients like we did 10 years ago or even 2 years ago. So we have to do same with students, find new, and you know, it works. At least on some of faculty members, it works. It changed somehow their perception of their work, because when they come to the courses, you can feel they have some like burnout, because this daily job without any changes for many years doesn't motivate them. They tell me, when I ask them, what do you use for examination? We have very nice MCQ. We use them 10 years already. They are very nice, all satisfied. Students like it. 10 years, no changes. Another group says, we are improving them every year. Say, how do you improve them? Based on what? Well, we are simplifying them because new generation of students cannot answer correctly. So we are simplifying them every year. So that is attitude they have at the beginning of the course. And the whole my job is to change this attitude.
I mean, these are good examples you are giving, particularly about the simulation experience and so on. Again, I mean, those who are attending training sessions, they are happy, they are satisfied, they learn something. It's just how to make sure that they transfer that knowledge and skill that they have acquired to the future generation and to their colleagues that are over there. Because as we were talking, the challenges are a lot. I mean, this is here, it's a continuous medical education. And several people mentioned about the importance of the continuous medical education. It's part of a faculty development. However, it's optional, and people who are interested, they will attend. And those who attend, they are converted. But those who are converted are few people who have the leadership and power to introduce change. What I'm looking is how to move that, let's say, to introduce this cultural change that all of us, we need to move forward. It is in our national interest to do it better. I can give examples. Those we have had brilliant students. They are not students. They are students in the MPH program, but they are practicing physicians and so on. They get so excited, motivated, and they want to introduce. Some of them, they have important faculty positions. But then they tell me that the minute they have tried to introduce these changes, they were threatened by the leadership, by the department chair, and so on, that either stop talking about this but they are afraid to lose their contract. So that I'm thinking how to change that so that there will be opportunity for the younger generation to have leadership positions and implement these changes. And those who basically are create obstacles, they have this sense of insecurity because they don't know or they are incompetent and comfortable with what they have been doing for decades. It's easier to block rather than be open, have an open mind to let these people move forward and introduce changes. I mean, these are things that we face. There is a generational gap, And I mean, when Armenia got independence, they said, just wait one generation, things will change a lot. A lot has changed. There is significant improvement, cannot be compared. But sometimes I feel that it's time that we can go more at an accelerated pace because the intelligence is there, the willingness is there. We have very brilliant students that can compete with our US best students and teachers, but they are not given opportunity, and it's a land of opportunity over there. And we have leaders. I mean, it just, again, the dilemma is we have these ideas, we talk about these methods, they know there are people, there are champions who can lead, but they are not given the opportunity.
Dr. Tekian, I think the faculty development courses need to be implemented in each universities, not only in the Yerevan State Medical University, but in any university. So faculty development need to be a part of the university development.
And do you think this can be like, if not mandatory, very strongly recommended? Like if you do not do this, maybe that's a one step further that it's not anymore optional. It is just it is expected of you to follow, and then there will be follow-up accountability for how you are implementing. Maybe Dr. Babloyan can give us more advice.
Դոկտոր Թեքյան, տեսեք, մենք կարևոր հարցեր ենք քննարկում, բայց մենք պետք է իմանանք, որ այդ հարցերը չեն կարող սահմանափակվել միայն առողջապահությունով։ Ինքը երկրի սիստեմը պետք է ստիպի բերի նրան։ Ընդհակառակ, այդ կառույցի ղեկավարը ինքը պետք է խնդրի իրեն երիտասարդներին, որ նրանք գնան սովորեն եւ գան նորությունները դնեն։ Ինքը երկրի համակարգը, երկրի մոտեցումները պետք է փոխվեն, ամբողջ բարեփոխումները, եթե մենք ուզենանք անենք միայն առողջապահությունով, դա սահմանափակ է մեր հնարավորությունները։ Դրա համար էլ ես կարծում եմ, որ այն ինչ որ մենք քննարկում ենք, դա շատ ավելի լայն է, քան թե առողջապահության սահմանները։ Եվ այդ առումով իհարկե այդ կարծրացած գլուխները պետք է կամաց դուրս գան խաղից եւ մտնեն երիտասարդներ, որոնք որ նոր մոտեցումներով, նոր շունչով, այսպես ասած, դաստիարակված եւ միևնույն ժամանակ շուկան պետք է ստիպի, որպեսզի իրենք սովորեն նորությունները եւ ներմուծեն նորությունները։ Այսպես եմ պատկերացնում։
You know, Dr. Babloyan, you talked to my heart and you touched exactly on the issues without, in a very realistic way, without distorting. I can give one example exactly, and it's not only in medical education, but in education. I was in a committee of highly specialized people from all over the world. For 2 years, we prepared a report how to improve higher education in Armenia. And we touched on all the various fields, and we collected large data. There's over 100-page document, there's a summary, 14-page, and so on. For 2 years, this report is being submitted to the highest authorities. They say, oh, this is very good, and so nothing happens. We meet together. What is the way of implementing some of these ideas? And they will say, here, talk to this, and so on, highest level talk, and so on. But eventually, nothing happens because it gets stuck at the very top. And you are identifying that somehow there needs to be change and opportunities provided for the younger people. And we are all ready to support in any initiative that you have. It's just we need to know how to move forward with any of our projects. But your words were very encouraging, inspiring. That's why we believe and we still come and contribute and participate in any project.
Well, there are things that we can control, and there are things we cannot control.
That's true.
So it's been proven time and again that part of the things that we're talking, including the changing the whole culture from above, as you mentioned, is probably out of our, you and I, hands. So my suggestion would be to focus on the things that we can change, or use whatever is there to the benefit of implementing what we want to bring in. And I'll give one example. One of them is that this educational system, is it centralized, these changes, or you can divide it on specialty and subspecialty groups. And we're talking about higher education, we're talking about residency, fellowship. Maybe it is better to help the subspecialty organizations on their education part. Many of the specialty organizations in Western countries, like anesthesiology, we had a couple of anesthesiologists talking, they have their own component of education. And it goes with the boards, it goes towards, okay, what are the new implementations? Maybe we should concentrate on the smaller part, different groups, not all centralized, of how they can improve their teaching methods to the novel practices and go from there. This is one solution that is accessible rather than, oh, we can't do anything.
Any other reflections, suggestions, inspirational thoughts?
Dr. Tekin, I want, if the Dr. Karen Atman on a call, I want to ask her to put the camera and just give us her impression about all these seminars. And we'll go to the conclusion after.
Yes.
I've thoroughly enjoyed the seminars. Actually, it's a lot of the same discussions we're having at our own institution at Boston University, the Chobanian and Avizizian School. In fact, we had them like 2 weeks ago with our education symposia that we have every June. So it was really actually encouraging that the conversation was very similar. We have established a partnership, as you know, that Aram established a long time ago with Armenia. And actually over the last year, we have had 2 faculty coming in every other month or so from Armenia and would like to continue that. They've been in neurology. We're about to embark on emergency medicine. And if you wanted to make them educators, there's nothing wrong with that either. We have the funding for them. They come for a month. They get a nice certificate. So we'd be happy to do that education-wise and have them work with our educators. We just opened a new clinical simulation center. They might enjoy that. And all of our medical education is team-based learning, so we have a specific classroom for that. So if you want to get some young people interested in collaborating with our young faculty who are excited about this stuff, that might be a way of doing that. I thoroughly enjoyed I did visit Yerevan and the medical school a long time ago. Aram arranged it. My husband and I came over. He's a cardiologist, and we thoroughly enjoyed our visit. It's a beautiful country. So
yes,
thank you.
Dr. Atman. We remember that it was I remember in a Marriott hotel when all these football teams was there. I was seeing you. It was in the middle of the football diplomacy at that time. So
I believe Armenia was playing Turkey for the first time, and the president.
First time. Yeah, 2 presidents was in the same hotel at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Dr. Atman, I think this is a good announcement from your side that the neurology faculty who is coming for a stroke center for stroke education with Dr. Babikan and also possible emergency medicine training, they can incorporate the educational part of the training. It's very important. I personally, when I was at the BU, I was participating at the faculty development with the person named Gail. I think at that time she was running that educational seminars for all faculty members. So there is a lot of possibilities. We need to work. We need to find out the real institutions which are interesting. It can be ICPD, it can be FAR. And saying that, I want to introduce Hambartsum Simonyan, who is a part of the, he's a medical doctor, pediatrician, and a good friend, but he's on the sponsor side today. And Hambartsum, a few words from your side.
Thank you, Dr. Yavjian. Actually, the sponsor side, it's another history, but first of all, I would like to welcome the faculty and all participants of this seminar. And first of all, I would like from the sponsor side say big thank you to International Center of Professional Development Organization for handling this fantastic seminar, as always bringing the very actual topic on the board, and moreover having this group of brilliant speakers led by Dr. Aratekian and moderators discussing in a very instrumental way this actual topic. As Dr. Babloyan kindly mentioned, Fund for Armenian Relief is one of the pioneer organizations in our country which has been involved in providing the continuing professional development since early 19th after the earthquake. And we are very fortunate to continue the legacy of our great mentors, Dr. Edgar Osepian, Aram Chobanian, Rafi Ovanesyan, in partnering with ICPD and other institutional organizations in Armenia and abroad for providing kind of important conferences. And from perspective of organization, non-governmental organization, which also has been involved in providing the CMEs, CPDs, I can emphasize one fact that this conference was very instrumental in terms of providing the modern trends in continuing professional development, which is very important to have in mind to see all the trends, techniques, methods, which we can definitely use in developing, designing our programs. And I believe among our participants, there are a lot of representatives from the NGOs and other institutional organizations that are also involved in providing CPDs. And summarizing, I can say that the conference was fantastic, very instrumental, but of course, one conference could not address all the topics. So I can say that this conference opened up new spaces for the next conferences. So thank you very much again. And on behalf of Fund for Armenian Relief, I can say big thank you for all organizers and involved people. Thank you very much.
Rafi, any conclusion remarks before I will pass podium to Dr. Babloyan?
I actually concur with the same thing. I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of ICPD. I just wanted to speak as an educator myself, that I learned so much from this, and I hope the participants will return. Keep us in mind in ICPD. I would come back to what you said, Gevorkjan, last year about the 1st of June, dedicating to the educators in medicine, and hopefully we would continue that. But again, your personal and a friendly remark. You did fantastic on organizing this. Very good speakers. Thank you, Gevork. As always, you've always been so good in doing this. I think the closing remarks goes to Dr. Babloyan, correct?
Yes, Dr. Babloyan will give closing remarks, but I want to introduce Dr. Babloyan to the, of course, non-Armenian panelists who don't know him maybe. And Dr. Babloyan is a surgeon, first of all, pediatric surgeon. He developed organ transplantation program, kidney transplantation in beginning of the Soviet time. He was a Minister of the Health for difficult times for Armenia during the earthquake and first Artsakh war. He was a member of the health committee in the parliament, and he was eventually the president of the Armenian parliament. He's a scientific advisor for Arab Care Pediatric Institute. He is a good friend and colleague, and most important, the supporter of medical education and continuous medical education in Armenia. So, Dr. Babluyan, remarks from your side.
Շնորհակալություն Գևորգ, շնորհակալություն բոլոր զեկուցողներին, պետք է ասեմ, որ գիտեք, պատահական չէ, որ այսպես հետաքրքիր անցավ այսօրվա մեր օրակարգը եւ այսօրվա մեր, այսպես ասած, քննարկվող հարցերը։ Ինչպիսին որ կար Արամ Չոբանյանը, այնպես էլ եղավ այսօրվա իրեն նվիրված կոնֆերանսը։ Շատ կրեատիվ, շատ կոնստրուկտիվ, շատ իմաստալից, շատ հարուստ եւ իհարկե պետք է մի փոքր շեղվեմ, արդից օգտվեմ, շնորհակալություն հայտնեմ Կերեն Ատմանին, որովհետեւ ինքն է ներկայացնում այսօր այն բժշկական դպրոցը, որի այսպես ասած մուտքին գրված է Արամ Չոբանյանի եւ Ավետիսյանի անունները, մեզ համար պատիվ է եւ կարծում եմ, որ այն առաջարկը, որ դուք արեցիք շարունակել համագործակցել կրթելով կրթողներին, դա շատ կարևոր գաղափար է։ Ուզում եմ բոլոր բանախոսներին շնորհակալություն հայտնել, շատ հետաքրքիր մենք զեկուցումներ լսեցինք, մենք էլ ավելի համոզվեցինք, որ մենք դեռ այնքան բան չգիտենք, որովհետև ամեն անգամ, երբ որ նորությունները լսում ենք, նոր ենք հասկանում, թե ինչ չգիտեինք մենք։ Դրա համար երբեք կրթությունը չպետք է կանգ առնի։ Դրա համար էլ այդ կրթությունը ինքը կոչվում է շարունակական։ Եվ անկախ դրանից, թե դու որ տարիքում ես, դու պետք է կրթվես։ Եթե դու սկսում ես, գտնում ես, որ քո կրթությունը ավարտված է, նշանակում է քո գործունեությունը ավարտված է։ Ես չեմ ուզում ասել, որ դու մահացել ես, դու կարող ես ֆիզիկապես գոյություն ունենաս, բայց դու արդեն չես կարող անել այն, ինչ որ քեզանից սպասում է հասարակությունը, իսկ հասարակությունը մեզանից սպասում է այն բոլոր նորությունները, որոնք ամեն 15 րոպեն մեկ առաջանում են առողջապահության բնագավառում։ Դրա համար ես կարծում եմ, որ հատուկ ուզում եմ շնորհակալություն հայտնեմ ICPD-ին, որովհետև այս կազմակերպությունը տալիս է հնարավորություն, որպեսզի մենք կարողանանք ձերպես կարևոր մասնագետների Արա Թեքյանի նման գրոսմեստերին իր գործի մեջ հրավիրել եւ ձեր նման մասնագետների ներգրավել Հայաստանի առողջապահության զարգացման հարցում։ Շնորհակալություն բոլորին եւ հանդիպենք մենք հուլիսին Մադրիդում։ Շնորհակալություն։